TruthSeekah and or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place of walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the TruthSeekah Podcast.
Gargoyles, psychics, everything's ungodly. Dark savage.
Streaming live at TruthSeekah.com.
She's not a Christian.
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in dark-sided stuff.
And now, your host, TruthSeekah.
I want to say a huge thank you to everybody who has been supporting my work via Patreon. This show is a listener-funded show, and I'm not able to do this without your help. So, again, thank you for helping me bring this to the people. Again, I think that every soul that is touched, every person who's able to turn on the light in the midst of their own darkness, man, I think you share in the midst of that harvest, and it's sowing into good ground. So, thank you guys for over the years. I mean, there's people who's been with me now for a couple of years and just believing in the vision, and you guys see the fruit. Thank you. If you'd like to support, head on over to Patreon, patreon.com/TruthSeekah. You get access to a bunch of really cool stuff. It's not just sending your money. You get all my music, 200 plus songs. You get access to our Thursday night School of the Mystics. Bunch of really cool stuff. I'm continuing to add stuff over there. There's levels where you get my guided meditations. I'm going to be working on some more of those. Bunch of really cool stuff. Make sure you check it out, patreon.com/TruthSeekah. And for those of you who have not checked out the new book yet, Spirit Realm, Angels, Demons, Spirits, and the Sovereignty of God, forward by Jordan Maxwell. If you haven't checked it out, what are you doing with your life? What are you sleeping on? Come on, check it out. It'll bless your life. I know it will. If you can't afford a physical copy, the PDFs are really cheap on Amazon as well. Make sure you check it out. It'll bless you. All that good stuff. So we're going to go ahead and jump into tonight's podcast with my friend Elexio. I'm going to let you pronounce your last name, man, because you told us last time. It's like, just stick to the first name. What's your how do you pronounce your last name?
Well, my whole name is Elexio. Last name is Baillou. Baillou. It's French. Okay. My first name is Spanish, so Elexio Baillou, but like I tell everyone, simply call me Lex.
Yeah. Okay. Lex. Okay. Well, welcome to the TruthSeekah Podcast, man.
Well, first of all, Happy New Year. Who would think that this would be what I'd be doing on January 1st? And if this is any indication, I'm in for one hell of a ride come 2020. And so definitely grateful for the opportunity to be here. Enjoyed our recent interactions, and I'm really flattered by the opportunity and the trust. So good night to all of your listeners. Happy New Year to everyone. Hope it is that you all had your ham and turkey and that you actually do meet those New Year resolutions to lose weight like most of us are setting and probably procrastinating on already.
Yep. Yeah, I've got a couple that I'm trying to execute myself, and just a lot of new vision, man. I know the whole cliche 2020 vision, but really just kind of getting that vision. I think we need to do that every day, but the marker of a new year is a good place to start, right?
It is a fresh start and with a lot of optimism, and so I'm hopeful that that those of us who have new agendas or want to continue on what it is that we were supposed to do in 2019, that we would experience renewed, several things, renewed passion, as well as we'll find it easier to stick to the length and breadth of what it is that we have set out to do, even when it doesn't seem as.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that's huge. Consistency, right? Something you started. Make sure that you stay with it, and you're gonna see it through. That's huge. I mean, with everything that I've been doing the last couple of years, consistency. Even when you want to abandon it, you want to jump ship. It's like, no, I'm sticking with it because I made the decision to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well as there's a book by Barbara Sher called Refuse to Choose. She talks about this group of people she calls scanners. And the fact is that there are those of us, a lot of times we're not open and honest about what in fact we were actually pursuing. And when it is that we've actually come to the end of what we really wanted. And so usually we're making decisions based upon social expectations as to what it is that we should set our focus on, which should be our priority, what it is that we should set our agenda to do, as opposed to what's really connecting with your heart. So I give an example. You wrote a book, and I have to purchase a copy of it and I'd love to read it and to see what it is that you have to say. Especially, I've never read any good books as it pertains to like ghosts. I do get into vampires and werewolves and all that stuff in any of your work.
I don't really talk a lot about it, but I've had some experience with the vampire stuff, but I don't really go into a lot of it.
Okay. Well, we need to talk.
I tie it all back to the Bible. Like, I tie it all back to the scriptures, which is the interesting thing. Yeah.
I believe it should be fascinating. And what I'm saying is that when it is that you write a book, typically the expectation is that you write a book to make it a bestseller, or that the agenda for you writing a book should be to make sales. Sometimes the focus for you writing a book, if you're honest, is just because you want to enjoy the opportunity of putting your words and your thoughts together. So your focus on your agenda could be completely different from what it is that people expect you to do it for. And you have to be honest about why is it that you're doing this and what it is that you're actually going for, so it is that you don't be frustrated by the fact that you don't get someone else's reward or expectation, because that doesn't mean you failed. Rather, you got what it is that you were looking for, and that's success.
For sure. I mean, that's with creating anything, like with the music and stuff, It's like, first of all, I want to create music that I like, that I enjoy.
Exactly.
And people are like, man, especially it's like peering into a new style, even the lyrical content and stuff like that. It was like, like it's not mainstream music, right? It's definitely has its own niche, the content. Like, we're talking about stargates, we're talking about portals, we're talking about ascension, we're talking about meditation and all this kind of stuff. So there's like a niche for that. You got to kind of find the niche and stuff. But then like it was me creating music that I enjoyed, and then hey, everybody else enjoys it. That's even better. But it's first of all making something that I want to listen to. Like, it's almost like seeing the need and then feeling it. You know what I'm saying? And
absolutely.
And anything that you create, it should be, and it's going to be successful if it fills a need, man.
Absolutely. The first thing that should be met is yours. Your own personal fulfillment. So, yep, I definitely agree with that.
Hey, let everybody know where you're from, man.
I am from the beautiful island of Nassau, Bahamas. I live on the beautiful island of Nassau, Bahamas. Well, I guess it would be New Providence would be the island. Nassau is the capital city. Most people know about Nassau because of one location. That would be the Atlantis. And so usually people here, when they think about the Bahamas, they think about the Atlantis and our beaches, sun, sand, and sea. And so, yeah, that's where I'm from. It's a small country. We have less than 750,000 people, I believe. And so it's definitely kind of close-knit culture, community, a former British colony. And so you see a lot of those colonial traits and even influences upon how it is that we function. So Bahamians are the type of people who will be in 100-degree weather in a full suit and will drink tea in hot weather. It's where it is that you see a lot of offshore banks, and you see our number one industry is tourism. And so it's very much given towards hospitality, towards other people. And It's definitely an interesting country to live in, and I love it here. I love my nation. They piss me off, but I definitely love being in the. I can say that about. Okay, I think so.
You good? Yeah.
I love being a Bahamian, and being from my country means that people. I guess I have kind of an international flair when it is that people meet me, because usually individuals have not met someone who was from the Bahamas. They just know of the country.
Yeah, that's interesting. And it's something about, the way that you speak and your, what I'm saying, your dialect, and you're very well, I feel like you're very well spoken as well. There's this weird thing to, like, especially coming, you have a lot of people in the U.S. who follow your work and support you and things like that. And it's this weird essence of something different, and like even like whether it's somebody with a British accent, they automatically sound a lot more intelligent, or like they know what they're talking about. Have you noticed that you actually, get a little bit more love out of the country?
It is part of my charm, actually, and I finally opened myself up to it, because my friends who are African American have told me, they said, Elexio, part of the reason that you have, quote unquote, so much favor abroad and so many opportunities is because of the fact that though it is that you are a black man, you're not a black man from the USA. And so when it is that people meet you, you can get away with saying many things and doing things that they would not necessarily be okay with from someone who was from their own culture and country. And so, yeah, I can get on pulpits and in platforms wherever I'm speaking, and I can essentially blaspheme. And I can take a butcher knife and just go for gold and say what I really think about a whole lot of issues and not blink. But you see it on my social media page. But Americans love it.
Yeah, he's not really from here, guys. He doesn't speak. Yeah.
Bahamians hated them. Oh my God, they hated to be like, "What are you doing? Are you trying to start a goddamn riot or something along those lines?" Yeah. But yeah, that it gives me a measure of influence and clout. The people don't get it, especially since it is they know me typically as a prophet. So that even allows for them this kind of John the Baptist feel as Elijah, just voice crying out in the wilderness. He shows up from a different country, doesn't know and he just gets in our business and throws stuff over, and we allow him to be as radical as possible, and we'll have him back the next year. Yeah,
there's something about that, man. And then, like, I think it kind of ties into the scripture a little bit too, where it talks about a prophet is without honor in his home country. They're like, "Oh, we grew up with this guy," but then the other people are like, "Tell us more,
Exactly, and then Bahamians get jealous over the fact that they tell me I treat Americans differently. I said, number one, Americans treated me differently. They treated me a whole lot better than you all. I said, that's why it is they have more favor with me, and you're all just jealous because of the fact that now I found myself amongst the people who celebrate me and honor me, and I'm not going to back down or apologize for it. But they tell me that they can say something to me, and once an American says it, then I'll listen. But if it's from a Bahamian, I won't listen. I told them, I said, furthermore, y'all cheat. And I said, y'all will work me into the ground for nothing and whatnot. But I like them. I like my Bahamians a bit pissed off at me and a bit perturbed. Makes life a little bit more interesting. And I love the fact that I get to go abroad to minister in the USA and encounter so many different individuals across the spectrum, spirituality, denominations, wherever it is. It's a joy.
That's awesome. Where did that kind of cross for you, or are you still crossing into? Because I don't really know much about you, right? I found out about you through Calvin Witcher. We did a thing where he actually invited us to be a part of his mentorship program that he was doing with his community. He let us come in, pray and prophesy and move some things around for people individually, doing personal prophecies and things, and it was a beautiful experience. And I love Calvin. That was awesome. So you were on the ticket. You were on the ticket, and so it was me and you, and I met you that night via Zoom, his Zoom call with about 30, 40 people or so. It was a lot of people there, and so I met you there, and you were flowing in the prophetic, and you were talking about how you can just kind of tap in and just keep going and going and going and give words and things like that. And you did that night. You gave some very accurate words. I mean, there were people in tears and was moved. It was a powerful encounter. But that was the first time I heard about you. I friended you after that. And then recently the last couple of months, been following some of your posts and stuff, which have been hilarious, and going off with the memes and stuff like that. And just it really feels like you're taking shots at what you're doing, #unpopular opinion, but you're taking taking shots at church culture and what these kind of like agreed upon things that are not biblical that we kind of maybe assumed were biblical or just as proper church etiquette, and you're taking shots at some of this stuff. And I feel like it sets people free and it makes them ask questions and stuff like that. So I was like, man, I gotta ask you more about that stuff, and I really like your spirit, so I wanted to connect with you. But we really haven't connected much outside of that, so I wanted to,
Yeah, we got to fix that. We need to go to what's my favorite place when I go? Cracker Barrel. my American friends think it's so pathetic that I'm in love with Cracker Barrel.
That's funny.
Take me to Cracker Barrel.
What you know about the Waffle House, though, man?
Listen, I'll go wherever. IHOP, take me to Boston Market, all the places that Americans send.
Those are the cheap places, though, man. It's like, take me to Cracker Barrel, take me to Waffle House.
Listen, I'll save my pennies up and let's go then turn up. Well, with me, what happened is the way that occurred is that. Well, I'll just say this. From my childhood, I've always found myself in a plurality of spiritual environments, even though primarily my focus and my personal growth has been within the context of Christian culture. And I definitely do consider myself a follower of Jesus Christ and what it is he teaches and what it is that he perpetuates as truth. Mm-hmm. The fact is that I spent my life even around divergent ways of viewing God and divergent spiritual experiences. My next door neighbor was a beautiful Jehovah's Witness woman, and by predominant Christian thought, that would be considered a different religion, different spiritual path. And I would go with her to her gatherings. I would sit down and she would teach me. And she would lecture me from my childhood. I got older, and when I grew up on an island that most of you will never visit, that you have never heard of. It's called the island of Andros, Andros. Everybody knows about Nassau, which is the capital, but Andros is the largest island in the Bahamas, and it's 15 minutes from the capital. When it was that I came to the capital to go to high school, I started just reading as much different material that I can get my hands on. And I was as much fascinated by Harry Potter as I was by Benny Hinn's books. I was as much fascinated.
That's a good duo, though, man.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I was as intrigued by the reading of Smith Wigglesworth, who was a famous evangelist for back in the day. A lot of healing, signs, wonders, and miracles. Catherine Coleman.
Kicking babies.
Yeah, exactly. I was as much fascinated by his stuff as I was about understanding sexuality, and as I was about understanding just different worldviews and different experiences. And then I began to become immersed even more so in supernatural encounters and experiences. And so what has happened is over the years, even when it is that I went off to tertiary level education in the USA at Florida National University, I was constantly engaged and immersed in a plurality of spiritual experiences with individuals who didn't necessarily think how I thought. And it changes the way that you view life and how it is that you view, for me, church culture and how it is that I think that we should function. And I would say that my agenda isn't to get people to live according to the Bible, because there are a whole lot of things that you see in scripture that pretty much are messed up. And you can take one passage of scripture from any particular context, and you can utilize it to abuse people and to berate people to live a particular way instead of liberating them. And so really my heart has been towards people living in freedom, for people living free from condemnation and shame, and to be empowered to be their best selves. And so that's what I really take. I take shots at things that tend to restrict people in that fashion. And when you live in a nation like I do, you have a lot of opportunities to take shots at stuff, and you have a lot of chances and many things to talk about, because you see the way in which is that religion can be used to oppress people instead of empower people to live free and without condemnation and shame.
Was there any was you combative at all, like against like these different ideas that were coming in? Like, like, you know what I'm saying? Were you told, like when you read Harry Potter, were you told that you wasn't supposed to read it in church?
And one of the things that I did actually when I first started reading his work was I remembered I started to have and I don't think it was because of Harry Potter. It was actually because of a Christian book, I think, that messed me up. I don't know if you remember a book by Mary Kay Baxter.
I've got it in there. He came to set the captives free.
Yeah,
Yes.
that book is a piece of trash in my
That's a
mind.
big one back. Hey, it
It's
was big, though, man, back in the day.
It is
Yeah.
horrible. And after reading that type of material, I started having nightmares and just encounters.
Demons were everywhere coming for your ass. They were everywhere.
Exactly. Ain't nothing happened to me with Harry Potter. But I was also reading some of his stuff, I think, simultaneously. And one of my mentors in church told me, you need to take his books in the back of your apartment and you need to burn them. And that's what I did. And so I burned this stuff, and I hate the fact that I burned them, but thankfully I can still remember the books, and I purchased all of them again over time. But
Yeah.
What happened is that for me, I just started to realize that so many ideas that I held and that I preached and that I perpetuated was in fact bondage. Creating a culture of control where it is the church leaders or people in positions of power felt as if that they can regulate and dictate people's lives, that they had an inherent authority and a right to tell us how it is that we should live our lives and what it is that we should do and what it is that we should not do. And that I came up in a culture, particularly within the charismatic field, when you grew up in like mainstream denomination, like I grew up in, you're taught to be afraid of several things. Number one, sex is horrible. And you're taught that you should just be a nice person, stay calm, live according to their rules and their traditions, and you're good. When you meet the charismatics, they're a whole different set of freaks. And it's just a whole different type of situation. And you speaking in tongues and fall down on all of this stuff, while it is that simultaneously living amidst the people that think any and everything is a demon, and that utilize hyper spiritual language and practices for the purposes of controlling how people use their money, how it is that they use their time, where it is that they go, where it is that they don't go. It's really kind of like some Jim Jones type of mess that you can experience. And I started to be in some of those communities, started to sit in those spaces because I was just desperate. And what started to happen is that I found myself processing and like, this stuff don't make any sense. This isn't true. This isn't real. And I began to continue to look for voices who can validate the fact that what I was sensing was in fact the truth. And once I met them and I started to really look clearly at scripture and see that it didn't match up, that it wasn't about freedom, wasn't about empowering people, I got real pissed off and I just started going back at it. And so some of the people and things that I talk about, people who were really my friends, I was in these spaces, I had influence, I had clout in those arenas, but I just started to just come outside of those gates and I started to throw rocks at those glass windows, because as far as I was concerned, this is bondage, this is toxic, this is controlling people's lives. And unfortunately, in the Christian culture and the Christian church, what can happen is that you can take individuals who are sincerely passionate about growing and about Jesus, and you can use that opportunity and monopolize upon it to basically get them to do whatever it is that you want. And it's sad, and it's one of those things that I deal with.
You seen the video? This is going to extremes, right? But you seen the video where the pastors got the church people out there eating grass like cattle and stuff? Just because he told him to do it?
Well, I'll give you an experience. I went to a ministry that was headed by a woman, and I'll probably say, I'll send you a video for she isn't that extreme with getting people to eat grass, but what will happen is that she was the type of individual that had all of these people believing that, any and everything about them, that they had demons, and we could find a demon for any and everything. And so I remember on Sunday mornings when we would come around the pulpit area and she would start casting demons. So all of us would be given plastic bags and paper towels, and we were supposed to throw up and bring up all of the demonic activity and everything like that to get free and to get set free. And I've been in a lot of those communities. Now, I will say that I think there are real legit
and people were doing it, though. People were like, kind of training themselves how to use those muscles to throw up, like psychologically, right?
And because it's indoctrination, and then you're on the floor having seizures and you're doing all of this stuff because that's what you thought you were supposed to do. And if I condition you long enough to make you believe that you have something, you will live in that reality and you will support those ideas with your practices.
Yeah, we kind of got into a little bit of that. It wasn't throwing up. It could have got to that, but one of the guys who discipled me was really big into what he would call hacking up demons. He would start coughing uncontrollably. Like even if it was like just some, you know how somebody can preach and then you feel the anointing and it hits you and it kind of goes to the places in your body, and he'll feel it and he'll start like coughing up demons and start crying and getting freedom. But that was just in his head. It was, with the breath and with the ruach, the connection there. It was always just loud, obnoxious coughing. And he's like, and he would feel a release from it because psychologically he had told himself that that's how the demons leave. Was through the breath. First of all, because he believed that he had a demon. And what's funny is that when it is that you look in scripture, when people who are really demonized, who have real devils, there was no question over the fact of whether or not that this was a demonized person, a presence in operation in their lives that was not something that made of their imagination. And so I've seen a few of those real ones, but more so than anything else, I just think that unfortunately we create a space wherein people look for reasons to not take responsibility for their lives or their uniqueness. And so when it is that you're told that something is wrong with you, you will find some type of way to deal with it or get rid of it. And so you will find all of the deliverance books and all of your John and Paula Sanford, all of your Pigs in the Parlor, all of that stuff, and you will create entire theological movements. I mean, I know some of the people who purported these ideas. It works. It like works for them. They make make millions of dollars. Yeah. Off of people, and so that because that's the excuse for any and everything that happens in people's lives, you got a demon. So when you started being conscious of that, you started calling that crap out, right? Yeah, I started calling it out. What happened with me is that here one of the things that occurred was, and I think I remember when I made the post, I was a part of I made a post and they were on my mind, and when I said revival is a myth. Yeah. Yeah. I remember you responded to that one, and what was coming to my mind was being a part of a community several years ago who were all about revival culture. And they were all about the fact that, and I'm all for miracle signs, wonders, all of this great stuff, the supernatural, but I wasn't for a lot of the excessive and toxic ideas that tends to come with these things that we figure is necessary to quote unquote convince God to move. So that self-flagellation and that you need to kill your flesh and that you need to beat this up or beat that down. And what I found is that what I was being taught as truth was just someone else's ideas that you couldn't really track and make sense of or grab hold onto. And it was just a lot of times personal empire building. And so what started to happen is for a season, I just disconnected from church on the whole. Yeah. Literally, if I wasn't given the microphone, if I wasn't for a particular engagement, when it was that I had the capacity to dictate what was going to happen, you couldn't find me in those spaces. And so I was just, I was angry and I was frustrated because I had major voices and major leaders that I looked up to as a mother or a father, which was a whole idea that that this person is supposed to be the picture of propel who you're supposed to become in Christ, and that you should leave everything like Elijah did and follow Elijah. Yeah. And all of that crazy. Well, that's a whole movement they call the fathering movement as well. And I don't remember the shepherding movement in the 70s with Jack Prince. Mm-hmm. And so I was deeply neck deep indoctrinated into that way of thinking. And I started to find out that the people that I was following didn't really have the heart of God towards me in the first place. And that it was just a means in which it is that they can get me into indentured servitude, where it is that they can use me and pimp me and prostitute me, however it serves their best. And my job was to be, quote unquote, a son. And so when I started to get free of that, and I started to realize that I was being used and misused and abused, I got angry. I got angry and for years. And
for years, a part of my healing process was just calling that ish out, saying what it was, and identifying it and calling them manipulative, calling it coercive, saying that it was toxic, and that if you're going to be a part of that type of space and functioning in that fashion, you should not be received as a follower of Jesus Christ. But in fact, you're a danger to people. And so that's what happened. And then church leaders, start to have opinions about me. And apparently they have conversations about me behind my back, but they're afraid to talk to me because, like I said, I am smart. I'm not cocky. I'm not arrogant, but I am cocky. And if I know something to be the truth, I'm not going to back down.
Yeah. It sounds like why we kind of connect so well, and I'm drawn to what you're doing, is the fact, that's very similar to what happened to me. And I think a lot of people listening too, you know what I'm saying? And they're some of them that's happened to them, or some of them they're going through this right now. Yeah. There's things that they believe and experiences that they have, but if they speak out about it, they're going to be demonized. They're going to be talked about behind their back. There's something called ghosting, in the church realm, where you just kind of cut the person off and you don't talk to them or even tell them anything.
How can two walk together except they be agreed? Even though we take the scripture out of context, we find any reason.
I want you to expound on that a little bit too, because that's one that we always would go on, and we would like cut people off because they believed something different. We did Christian rap for a long time, and we would quit working with each other because we believed in signs and wonders, and then they became more of Reformed theology, and they were like, no, we can't. They were Calvinists, and they said they didn't want to be seen on stage with us anymore, like people that we grew up with, and they just kind of veered off into something different, and you know what I'm saying. In the scriptures, and we wouldn't be seen together. Can two walk together lest they agree? And that separated so many people. For me now, I'm like, when I read that scripture, it's like, can two walk together lest they agree? It's like, hold on, let's find what we can agree on and walk together in that. That's what I get out of that now, because I'm finding so much peace there.
Well, here are several things. Number one, within your own self, you don't always agree. You sometimes live in cognitive dissonance. You disagree with some of the things that you find yourself internally conflicted because you're trying to reconcile two different things that you tend to believe. And it creates a kind of cognitive dissonance. You're conflicted. So what are you going to do? Separate from your own self? That's the first thing. Second thing, look at marriage. In the marital relationship, if the basis of your connection with somebody is agreement on everything, you're gonna have a very messed up marriage, because I don't know any healthy couple who constantly agrees on any and everything. It just doesn't work. And so what happens is that, and that's why I said what we'll do, we'll find any passage of scripture, take it out of context, especially if it's Old Testament. We love, especially those passages like Malachi, will a man rob a God, yet you have robbed me in times.
That was the first one, bro. That waking a lot of people up, though, for real, because that's so easy to break down, man. God. And
just to break that passage down, the first thing is that scripture had nothing to do with the general body. It was towards the priests who were stealing the money.
The book is only 4 chapters, and all you got to do is read the beginning of each chapter, and he addresses it. And I was like, what the hell? Why are they reading these curses that were for other people, and they're putting them on us? And I want to tie that into witchcraft, Harry Potter, spirituality. Watch out for the witches. Watch out for Calvin Witcher. He's a witch, the Christian witches. There's more witchcraft being done in church ministry than Christian churches than there is in Wiccan covens, witch covens, man. There's some of the most darkest, craziest witchcraft going on when the pastors and leaders understand what those scriptures mean, and they still continue to teach it that same way because they can get money out of you. Witchcraft is manipulation. Whether you're manipulating matter and pulling things in and out and creating things, they're doing that under the pulpit and with the music and God and salvation and eternity at stake. Man, it's so dark, bro.
It is. And, I have an issue. I used to say I hate witchcraft, but after meeting Calvin Witch, I'm like, you know what? I'm considering some of this stuff. I'm going to sit down and see where am I at, because dude, you mess with my theology. My issue is with coercion. My issues with intimidation. My issue is taking the free will and the power of people to make their own choices. I think that is extraordinarily dangerous and toxic, more than anything else, and that's what I've seen done so many times. I know individuals who will marry or will not marry a certain person because they're seeing leader prophesying and telling what God says.
Oh my God!
And I've seen.
Or trying to. I've seen what happens a lot. You've probably seen this too. The gay thing. We get a gay guy in, and he's not gay no more. We prayed for him. He found delivered. Jesus, and they'll try to hurry up and marry them with another young woman who's looking for a husband. And like, here, y'all get together, and they'll send them on dates. They'll even pay for their dinner. You know, they have this hookup, and like close friends of mine have almost gotten married and engaged with gay guys. Like that would have messed them up so bad to get into marriage a couple months, a year, and be like, hey, I'm still gay. Like, you know what I'm like? I know y'all told me I wasn't, but those feelings never left. You know what I'm saying? And like,
because the first thing we think is that, according to us, sexuality. First of all, I find it interesting that this whole, and here in church culture, homosexual lifestyle, and I've always asked the question. Well, no, not always, but recently I've been asked the question: what is a heterosexual lifestyle, and what is a homosexual? I said, I need clear markers. Like, I can understand it's a Christian lifestyle, because if it is a fall of Jesus Christ, it's a New Age lifestyle, indeed, because these beliefs and practice, these beliefs influence totally how you interact, how you function in everyday life. It shows up in your core values and your convictions or whatnot. You know, it's a gay lifestyle with somebody wearing a rainbow-colored flag and listening to "I'm Every Woman" or something along those lines, or doing the bow 24/7. I don't know. No one has ever been able to explain those ideas to me, because herein is part of the problem that I help the church folk, and this is really what irritates me the most. We don't empower people within the spiritual spaces that I've been in. We don't empower people to study, to think critically, and to do research. And you can perpetuate any idea that you want to perpetuate, especially if it doesn't go against mainstream culture. So, for example, you talk about LGBTQ issues. If you live in a very patriarchal and misogynistic type of system, all you have to do is paint a picture that perpetuates an idea that supports and affirms that type of mental stronghold, and people will go with you with that. So that's why it is that we want to believe that homosexuality is a spirit, and that gay is a spirit, and that is something that you can quote unquote cast out. And that, that's why it is that, and then it is we find different terms to define what we don't want to find. So somebody says that, I'm not gay, I'm same-sex attracted, SSA, which SSA simply equals gay. Just like OSA, opposite sex attracted, equals heterosexual. And we teach that you could lose these things, or you could break this. This is about sex, and when it has absolutely nothing to do with that, it's just an aware which is someone has been made and constructed, and it goes back to them, to who it is that they are on a deeply psychological and even neurological level. But unfortunately, I found within church culture, we think that we could, I guess, do what God didn't do.
Pray the gay away.
Pray it away, and it never works.
I thought that for a long time. I mean, I'm in the Bible Belt, man, and we were charismatic. We think we're, that was my truth. Only till recently, just, I'm saying, several years ago, that we that spell get broken off of my life, of that, what gay people are, and it can be their friends, just weird stuff, man. I had to come out of religion.
Don't forget, especially as excuse the term that they would use as a white cisgender man. In other words, when they say cisgender, you're born as a man, and as well as whose whose natural attraction is to women. You grew up in a system that inherently thinks that how it is that you function, that is not only normal, but that's what everyone else should do. And everyone else should live their lives. And so whatever and whomever does not conform to that is automatically not only abnormal, but it's perversion. And it's sad that we create these binary boxes, which is that we're expecting people to function in, because it creates oppression, and it hinders creativity and innovation, and the capacity for us to see the plurality of differences in terms of how God makes people, how it is that they function. And I remember, I remember the one of the first quote unquote really toxic community I found myself in was just because the senior leader, she does deliverance, and she was casting the gay out. And apparently she came to cast out of me. And I remember I was like 16 years old, and being under the tent, and she doing all that stuff, taking olive oil, rubbing it in my gums, and doing all of this crazy stuff. I'm serious. It was a mess.
Yeah.
And I promise you, by the next time I was up testifying, I ain't gay no more. I'm delivered.
I've seen you on that video. I'm not gay no more. I am delivered.
And so you sit in those spaces, and you follow what they believe and what they teach, but yet you find behind the scenes they're the biggest freaks. I mean, because those type of communities, they tend to have so many people that who are so sexually repressed that they start messing with each other, start doing a lot of crazy stuff, and the only way that they're able to kind of function well is to marry one another, and it isn't healthy, and it does.
It's so weird because when they do it, it's okay. You know what I'm saying? Even if they get caught or whatever, they still got a pulpit. They still got this kind of stuff, but they still have the people bamboozled or like under a spell that they've created with that platform.
Because you've created a dependent culture where it is that people feel they can't function without you.
Well, it was big with what's his name? God rest his soul, but Bishop Eddie Long.
Oh, Bishop Eddie Long, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but.
And his leaders, you know, well, I guess he never came out, you know what I'm saying? Like, but his leaders came out and said, even if he did do it, we'll still follow him. You know what I'm saying? Even if he was having sex with little boys, we'll still follow. It was like, okay, this is crazy. And that wasn't just about being gay. That was about messing with, you know what I'm saying, underage dudes, you know?
Well, first of all, that situation, that's pedophilia and homosexuality are two completely different ball games. But those are two different situations. Because the whole issue of pedophilia is about it's predatory being taken care of someone's innocent. It doesn't matter if it's a male or a female. Now, what I will say, like with that Eddie Long situation, and this is interestingly enough something that we've recently found out. More than likely, he wasn't the one that did anything. But what he was doing, because he was the most famous person, he was covering up for a lot of his other friends, allegedly, who were leaders of smaller organizations, smaller bodies. And perhaps what was occurring is that he took the brunt of the beating because he was the only person that could have been able to handle the payouts and deal with all of that different stuff. What happens is that is that when church leaders arrive at a certain level of prominence, because we build platforms all around them, it's kind of like Nebuchadnezzar building an idol to themselves. Because what tends to happen is that we create the type of places wherein church leaders become demigods, and they can't afford to fall or fail because they're so much dependent upon their success. Because if you're leading an organization, let's say, for example, Bishop T.D. Jakes, who leads the Potter's House in Dallas, Texas, that has about 30,000 members, and you have several hundred employees dependent upon you, and your name, your integrity, your character, your reputation has to be sterling. If it is that becomes tarnished, what happens is that the people who support you, who pay and undergird this organization, start withdrawing funding because this is a nonprofit entity. And if that occurs, then you lose people, and this whole system starts to crack and fall down, and it destroys and really challenges the lives of individuals. And so we can't afford, unfortunately, the way that we do things, we can't afford for people to get into misery. If they do, we can't afford to really hold them accountable, because the money and the cost of it is something that we're not prepared to really adjust to deal with.
Yeah. You see that a lot, man. Yeah, and you know, they're really good at setting up these structures and getting people to believe in what they're doing. And there was a couple seasons where we were like, the Lord used us to just be in a certain place to check people, man. Like, we're just nobodies, you know, carrying the anointing, and God called you to check a big leader, man. You know what I'm saying? And doing all kind of weird stuff. But it comes out. And usually the ones, whether it's the homosexual stuff or Pray the Gay Away, I think one of the leaders of that movement just came out as gay. The guy who was like doing, what did they call it? They actually have a name for it.
Comparative therapy.
Yeah, but there's another word they do it with. Actually, it's not called Pray the Gay Away. That's a silly name, but
that's Zoe.
Yeah, it's like that, but there's an actual name. I forgot what they call it. Anyway, it was one of the leaders of that movement, and he just came out as being gay. I mean, Ted Haggard, all of these guys who are really loud about it. They're trying to hide.
Alan Chambers, Alan Chambers, who led Exodus International for I think more than 20 plus years. He got up and he said that they had failed in their mission, and that in 99.9% of the cases, when is that individuals who came to them for help or conditioning or support, they found out that these people did not experience any real change in sexual orientation, and they may have learned to deal with other typical issues individuals who on the LGBTQ spectrum deal with just because of society being so repressive and toxic towards orientation, drug addiction, and they may have obscurity, but that has nothing to do with their sexual orientation. It's just because you're having to hide it and not being able to live in a healthy fashion. So whenever it is that people have to function in a repressive way, you're going to get them behaving in less than healthy manners. And so he said that they failed. And so many of the founders, the people that supported these ideas, who pioneered and spearheaded this stuff, keep coming out and saying that that this stuff doesn't work. And now you have the Bless Their Hearts, you have Bethel Church in California, who has this whole movement, talking about people who ain't gay no more, they're delivered, and it's toxic and it's worrying, because what it does is that it continually gives false hope narratives, and it promotes creates confusing messages that you have to put out, and it just doesn't work. The psychology tells you that the things that we're teaching and that we're supporting doesn't work. But when it comes to the whole issue of sex and the only thing that we think is healthy is missionary position between a husband and a wife, in as boring a way as possible. And interestingly enough, over the years, you find out that we once believed that sex in and of itself should, if it did not produce an heir, if it did not include the possibility of a child, we thought that was considered sodomy.
And oral sex, like even with your spouse, like there were church leaders we were under, like no, you don't even do that with your spouse, like anything.
I know major church leaders who really do perpetuate that belief in this whole purity culture type of stuff. Yeah, that they will tell you they're married and that they don't engage in oral sex with each other, because to do so would be ungodly.
Yeah, and that's weird. The only time you should come together with your spouse is to have a child. That's so weird.
But these are the puritanical ideas, and it goes way back into issues that the church always had. Even St. Augustine, some of these guys who were great Christian reformers and fathers in the faith had some pretty messed up ideas about sex. And I know one major church leader from back in the day, centuries ago, who praised the idea of, if it is that you married somebody, that they thought it was godly and Christ-like not to have sex with the person that you were married to. That was the height of purity and height of commitment to Jesus Christ. No sexual intercourse and engagement and intimacy with your partner.
Yeah. What was the whole thing with the guy in Waco? What's his name? Waco, Texas. David Koresh. He was telling... Yeah, the cult leader who had the sounds eerily similar to some other people, but who had the divine revelation on the 7 seals and how they're going to be unlocked and what they are, and all that kind of stuff, and started his own cult and commune and that kind of thing. But one of his things that he would tell some of his followers who were married, like they came in married or they wanted to get married, he'd say abstinence and he would have sex with their wives.
Spouses. I believe that, yeah.
And he would do it to, like, he would talk them in, like, because we're not supposed to do it, but I'm going to take on the role for you and do this for, and he would convince people, like, okay, sure. It's like, these folks they'll believe anything, man. It's scary, bro. I think the scripture talks about it too. Just, you know what I'm saying? Be not many teachers, man. Be not many leaders is a harsher judgment. And you see why. Most people can't see it. Like, that's the whole witchcraft of it all. Like, the true dark witchcraft, like occult, bad stuff. Because they got everybody fooled. Like, behind the scenes, they're telling you not to do it, but they're doing it. Like, that's where it comes in.
If you have real supernatural powers, you can convince people to hold on to an idea, because most people are not taught to discriminate between divine gifting and enablement and supernatural capability, and whether it is that this person is simultaneously a healthy individual to deal with on the whole. And, you know, if it is that you work miracles, if you can heal the sick, you can raise the dead, and you can cast out devils, all of this stuff, that doesn't mean that you're not a liar, that you're not deceptive, that you're not manipulative or coercive, because, well, the power doesn't come from you in the first place. You're the medium, you're the entity being utilized to release this capability. Now, you should walk with honor and integrity, so it is that you don't lose credibility and cause a reproach to what it is that you're actually doing, and you don't damage people. But like, let's say you go into hospital, just so to speak, and people automatically, miraculously healed. Do you know how much clout that creates for you in that moment of time? And how much trust people are willing to place in you because they've not seen it before. Yeah. And they're not open to that before. And so, you know, even some of the great healing evangelists, people like Catherine Kuhlman, I love Catherine Kuhlman, but a lot of the ways that she thought was messed up. If you read them,
you have what some of those were probably doing, and definitely what we see going on now with cameras everywhere, all these fake healings. Or we do one false healing, a plant even, and then people are excited. People are going to start giving and all that kind of stuff. There's been a lot of videos come out. I covered some of it. You probably seen it. It was like in Uganda or something like that. And the lady who had the weathered arm. And they prayed and poured water, and she was stretching it out, and it looked real. At first glance, I watched it, and I was like, man, a creative miracle. Praise God. Because you want it to be real. You know, you want that book to be real.
And then we don't demand transparency for credible things. You know, it's one thing if you see A.A. Allen and some of those guys who would literally invite real scientists to come. This come see this type of stuff, what's really occurring. And so, you know, it casts a reproach on the real, because you see so much false stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's with everything, though. They say that with, Christianity and, the Crusades and this, and they point out all the bad, which is the first thing people go to. And then we're talking about healings and miracles and signs and wonders, and we immediately go to the bad, hey, you seen that fake one? And just seeing how I think, deep down there's probably like a shepherding heart there that we don't want the people to be lied to, because we were lied to, and we, and I would read the comments on those videos, and people were like, praise God, and they were like in tears, there is power in Jesus' name, but they didn't know that this woman was a plant. And there's other videos where they use the same woman with the same arm who got healed in another church. Like, I did a whole breakdown on it or whatever, but it's always happened. Like, I've even looked at like some of the big guys. You know who David Hogan is?
Yes, David Hogan.
He's got all these crazy stories, similar stories, and people raising the dead. He's raised 200 people from the dead or whatever, and he's talking about limbs snapping back together and just horns coming out of people's heads, going back in, like crazy signs and wonders. And he tells these stories in such a way that it raises your faith. But there's really no proof there, and so there's been a lot of people who would do the plant thing to like justify it, or even make up these stories to justify it, because they're building your faith. I'm building your faith in God, and so I can make these stories
by lying. Yeah, I would say, for me, I living here. This is one of the benefits of living in the Caribbean, because we tend not to have as much readily access to probably some of the benefits, even medically, that you see in the USA, as well as because if you are a Black person and you live in the West Indies, you're more so attuned and rooted in spirituality as opposed to typical Westerners who may live in a first world country. And so I remember having a mentor who I would see, he would speak to the rain and it would start raining. And I would speak to the wind, no exaggeration, and I would see these things occur. But at the same time, that same person was this was a man trying to manipulate and sleep with with some of the young men that he mentored. Not me, but thank God. But was trying to do all this type of stuff. But my point is that, there will always be false stuff, I've seen and I know the real. I know the real, and I know individuals who do demonstrate the real. And I'm probably, as much of a prophetic person as I am, I tend to be so. And they tell me that I could be such a cynic, but I think it's my own safeguard, because I don't want to perpetuate.
There's a lack of it, though. There's a lack of it. Like there needs to be that to be like a healthy medium, and because we've seen so much stuff fly, and the people want it so much, and that's why you create an atmosphere of expectancy, because it's the placebo, which placebo is can be used for a good thing. People want it, and you give them what they want. You know what I'm saying? And hopefully you're doing it for a good reason. And some people say it gets iffy when money's involved. You lying or whatever the case is to get them to give. But we've been in so many services and stuff where people are just prophesying, just making stuff up, that you heard them tell somebody last week they got these words. There's always like this etiquette or default you go to, give them dreams and visions, Lord, wake them up in the middle of these weird things. And I was a part of a church service where I was I wanted the real, you know what I'm saying? We want the real, we long for it, and the lady was just like prophesying book deals on everybody. She was like, you got a book in you. You got a book. People are crying. Everybody had a book in them. You know what I'm saying? And then everybody had this. And she told the pastor that he was going to be riding on planes and trains. And it was rhyming. They get so rhyme. Planes and trains are coming into your life. There's going to be a line coming out of the church all the way down the block. And they're falling out in the glory of God. There's going to be a line. People are waiting to get in to hear the word of God, because there's a shortage of the word of God. And he's crying, and the Holy Spirit. And then they're going to be lined up to that store down the road, and they change churches like the next week. And they're always like my elders and stuff, the ones who led me, they were like, because I would start calling this stuff out, like, bro, you can't just be making this stuff up. That's if you're prophesying falsely, you're a false prophet. It's like, well, it can happen. You can't call it, because one day that could still happen. Like there could be a line coming out of that church to this, and they don't even go to that. They're not even in that building, and we let it fly. And it really hit me hard, because, like, the scripture talks about when you're moving prophetically like that, there's something we always leave out, and it's that somebody's supposed to be there judging the matter. Hold on, what the hell are you talking about? The Lord told you these people got book deals, and you know what I'm saying? Like somebody that's kind of outside of it, who's not like trying to hype it up. There's supposed to be a judge there when prophecy's going forth, and you'll never see somebody doing that and calling like the evangelist or the pastor or whoever, hey, I don't think that was God, bro. You need to kind of reel it back. We don't do that here. You know what I'm saying? Unless it's going to be a big.
We don't hold each other accountable, and I think a lot of times what we consider the prophetic has been so hyped up, as well as here is an issue I found. A lot of people aren't happy with life on the whole, when the reality that they live in.
Yeah.
And so because they're not happy with life, they want you just to come and say something to them, to tell them that they're going to skip the reality what their life is like. So I remember when I was 8 years old, a prophet came to the house, and she said that I was going to be a prophet. I was going to call to nations. I'll travel to other nations. At this juncture, I probably traveled to 4 nations and preached in different states of the USA. It ain't that glamorous, to be quite honest. The fulfillment of what she's spoken over my life and things that have been declared, it's nowhere as fun some people will tend to think that it's going to be. And what happens is a lot of times people don't have wisdom to go with what is being spoken. And simultaneously, I find that people tend to just want to be addicted to some fantasy idea about them being something that they're not really, they really aren't, and then they can't be happy with the reality of their own lives.
Oh yeah.
Can't be happy with the reality of their own lives, and so they see prophecy as a means to give them a false sense of self, and to take them away from the reality of what it means to walk out the fulfillment of what has been spoken of their lives and how that probably is going to be. And so for me, it means a lot of work. It means a lot of sacrifice and a lot of challenges. But I'm saying it. I'm walking on things that have been spoken over me. But it isn't some big fantasy idea like some people think. I don't have any big. How can I put it? There's no big flyers with my name on it. All over social media and churches and whatnot. I'm kind of the John the Baptist being marked as, oh, he's an error, he's wounded, he's false. Don't listen to that guy. And so the fact is, people just tend not to have a realistic expectation. Sorry, if you hear the dog barking outside.
Yeah, okay.
They tend not to have a realistic expectation, and then they just hate their lives, and so they see this as a momentary opportunity to get a sense of affirmation and validation about themselves, even if it isn't real.
The weird thing is, it's like you can make it real, like any of those prophecies. Like the book deal, even though that was BS, like somebody could like held on to that. She told me, and I'm going to write it down, and I'm going to start writing tomorrow. Like how many people you get prophesied to, the Lord's going to wake you up at 2 or 3 in the morning, give you dreams and visions, give you songs and give you ideas, and you wake up and you just go back to sleep. Like if you really believe that, you're like waiting to get woken up. You know what I'm saying?
And you can partner with it. It's an invitation. I think a lot of times real prophecy is an invitation to a journey that's going to require a change and a shift in who it is that you are and how you function. But people tend not to be interested in that. They tend to just want the momentary affirmation and not the call to personal responsibility. And so I've found that as I've grown, majority of what I speak tends to bring about a greater sense of sobriety as opposed to people falling out.
Yeah, I was running the phone lines for a friend of mine who's a psychic. That's her title, and I ran the phone lines on Blog Talk, and I would take the callers and get their name and stuff. But eventually they wanted me to start praying, and they really liked my prayers. And a lot of them, weren't a part of church culture. It was different for them, for me to bless somebody and pray over them. They could feel God, when I prayed and stuff. And a lot of people, they would call in for readings from the psychic, and they just wanted to be told, like, they wanted somebody to agree with them, something where there's like something they already felt, and they just wanted a quick fix, and then they would, the lady would ask me, okay, Truth, what do you feel? I'm like, okay, you want to, is he coming back? Oh, do you want him back? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, do you want it? And I'm asking them, like, hold on, what do you want? Like, because if you want it, there's things to do to make it happen, like to manifest it and to get right.
People are afraid of that reality.
Because there's work involved to it. It's not like bewitched.
What do you actually want?
Yeah, be clear, be concise. And if you want prayer, let's release it. Let's create it, like in the spirit and in your mind. Let's make a connection there if that's what you want, an idea, and we'll help you get on the right track and remove any obstacles. But like, what do you want? They're just calling in like, hey, tell me what I'm going to do with my life. Or I see you doing this, I see you doing that. You know what I'm saying? And that's what but it's so weird because like people that keep calling back like every week wanting a prophecy or a psychic reading. Like, didn't we just give you some information last week? You want more information?
I want you to do for me what I should do for myself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And people would rather be manipulated and disempowered than it is that when things fall apart, they can blame you.
The psychic was wrong, or the preacher, or whoever.
Rather than saying, okay, I didn't expect this to happen, and I took these risks, and this situation occurred this way. That's what it is. That's what it is. I just see occur many times, and it's sad, but it's not surprising, because the fact remains that in the world in which people have to make so many choices, and you're taught, even in school, you're indoctrinated and you are groomed to follow someone else's path, and you're not taught to make decisions and be an empowered individual yourself. And so I remember one time, like I told a mentor of mine, I said I'm an independent thinker, and she told me that I had a vagabond spirit. That was another thing that told me, because of the fact that I didn't just accept what they say. What they said, I didn't just accept it as true, and I didn't accept the fact that you found a passage of scripture to support it, because I found out that just looking at the scripture at face value doesn't mean that you're going to actually understand what is the fact saying. So I'm better because I had enough common sense to critically analyze what it is that they were perpetuating to me as truth.
Yeah, and there's a lot that comes with that, and that you've experienced, that I've experienced, right? A lot of other people, which leads me to this understanding of the baptism of fire. In the charismatic movement, we know what the fire is. It's the fire.
You need the fire of God
on your life.
You need the fire of God. Yeah,
There's glory on your life. I'm moving closer into this baptism of fire, like, which I love, the fire of the anointing, the fire of His weighty glory presence, like the fire that's within, like breath of fire. Like, I love it all, but I'm really moving now to like understanding, like the fire is the anointing of like trials. And like, let me set up these trials and these situations to see how you react, to make sure that you really believe this stuff. And going through that, like you get the anointing when you're pressed, when you're going through situations, like when you have the oil, it comes out of the olive when it's pressed and trampled and beat up and beat on, and then the oil comes out. So I feel like there's a connection with going through adversity, or going through maybe what we would think is hardship, or having a church's gossip about you, or pastors lie on you, or people, call you out your name and gossip behind your back. Like, that does something to us, especially when we thought that was family and all that kind of stuff. But, God is the author and finisher of our faith. And there's like a test and reasons that we kind of go through that, so that you won't get tickled when you got your name on a flyer and a video goes viral. You know what I'm saying? You won't be moved by the applause and opinions of men. God's got to burn that out of you with that fire. Did you see a connection there with like the fire, the baptism of fire and the anointing and going through these trials? Because I feel like even when it's like everything's against you and it seems like you don't have no way out and no reason to pray, when you tap in to the presence of God, when you begin to praise and worship, there's a whole new level of glory that's never left. Even though it feels far away, it feels like, man, I wish I could be the person I was years ago, the naive Christian or whatever. Like the anointing and everything's still there. It's never left. It's even gotten stronger. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, what has happened with me is that I found out that the process of life that I've walked through and the challenges that I've faced, what it did is that it made me a more mature individual, because it matured me emotionally, even intellectually. I found out that the grace and the capacity I always had, that seemed to have been unlocked. And so once with that being unlocked, then it flows in a more notable and tangible fashion, whether it's I'm preaching, teaching, ministering to individuals, however it is. And I don't think it's like, quote unquote, the anointing increases. I just think what it is that you already have, that begins to flow in a greater fashion, because as a child, you have a certain measure of potential to do certain things, to grow, the capacity to mature into an adult who can be this strong individual, this strong man, this strong woman with these muscles and all of all of this capacity for movement, but it takes time and process for that to occur. And so the process of maturing me as an individual just meant that what I already possess, I'm more forthright with it. I'm a better steward of it, and it flows more courageously and powerfully. And so I think that's what it is that I found begin to happen. And you also take a greater sense of responsibility for who it is that you are, what you possess, because you've endured enough life situations and circumstances that have a way of making you own the reality of what you believe, what it is that you carry, and how it is that you function in the earth, and you have no need to back down from it.
I feel like it gives you a natural empathy. You don't have to act like you care. Like I always talk about how like the Lord taught me how like not to gossip about people, because I know what it feels like to have like congregations gossiping about me, or the pastor do a sermon about me to tell people to stay away. Like
while you're in the congregation. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And just say little slyway stuff where you got to get up and walk out, and that kind of stuff. And they knew what they were doing and stuff. But it's a natural empathy though. Like you really care for people who are going through it. You
really do. You develop a natural empathy, as well as you own yourself at a greater level, a greater sense of authenticity, because you become more grounded in yourself, because it costs you just to be you. There's a measure of sacrifice and a measure of payment that you have to give to own the reality of who it is that you are to live in respects to that, when that is not necessarily something that others celebrate or that they affirm and validate as powerful and as necessary.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that I've found is that in my life journey, that what I've walked through, because I refuse to back down just from being myself and for how I see things, that there are some things I don't do to other people. At the same time, it makes you a greater person to hold true to what it is that you truly think and how you see people and how you see things, and you don't apologize for it because you mean what you meant. You said what you say. I tell people I don't lie. That's one of the things about me. I don't lie. I don't have a toleration for it. I may function in some self-deception sometimes, but in terms of lying to people, that's not something I do, because it costs me too much just to tell the truth. And when you know something to be true and you can call out on others, you own it in yourself, and you tend to be open to living towards it. And once it is that you begin to function in this fashion, it kind of draws even more supernatural experiences, and it opens the way, it opens the portal up to sometimes to some greater encounters, to journeys and to pathways, not just with God, but with the unseen realm that other people tend not to walk, because I've found that engaging the realm of mysticism and the realm of the unseen requires openness and vulnerability as opposed to trying to function as some religious facade.
Yeah. That stuff, that cost, and it costs integrity. It costs you your life. For me, I have to handle it all with integrity. Like there's this sanctification process that is between me and the Father. You know what I'm saying? And like everything has to be good. Like, I mean, a lot of different things have to kind of add up for me to even want to pursue it. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm not like walking what the scripture calls the highway of holiness, if I'm not on that, if I got hidden sin in my life, or I got ulterior motives, or I got, whatever, stuff going on, then I'm not really doing it. But I like to kind of paint the picture between Simon the sorcerer and Peter and Paul and those guys, when they it was something that you could buy with money, or something that you could learn, or whatever, but what they had came through the anointing, right? Or through this life laid down that it took them years to learn, and he wanted it instantly and stuff. And there's those people who do that. Just like you were talking about how there's people who are so-called walking in signs and wonders, or if they're real or not. But the scripture says that the giftings and callings come without repentance. So there are people who can, be sleeping with many members in the congregation, and still they have this charisma about them to move crowds, and they know how to hype it up. They know what songs to play, whatever the case is, and it gives you the illusion, and they create an atmosphere for people, right? For people to experience God, the supernatural, or whatever. But for me, I really do feel like in that working with the good side, that it doesn't go together. Like, I think that those people are void of those experiences, like personally. In their own prayer time. Maybe they don't even do that anymore. It's something that they learn. But for me, there's like integrity, love, and faith is the fuel for anything, any spiritual encounter for me.
Absolutely. What you find out is that these individuals that function in a way that's disingenuous, where it is that they're not connected with who it is they truly are and presenting a facade to the people. What tends to happen is that on a deep level, emotionally, they become very toxic. They have to get addictive behaviors to feed their soul, and they have to do different things to attempt to mitigate the overwhelming conviction and disconnect between public pressure and performance and the reality of who it is that they are personally. I'll tell you an example. There is a well-known, presently a well-known young millennial. He's known as a prophet, with a huge following in the USA.
Huge beard?
I'm
trying to figure out who it
is. He's known for a lot of campuses now. He's known for
white guy?
Black guy.
Okay.
Of skinny clothes and looks like a model.
Dude, he's charismatic as hell. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
And
he looks like Michael Westbrook, the basketball player. Michael Westbrook, the basketball player, in the face. Yeah.
Listen. I'm Michael. I'm gonna do it right. I can see who it is right now.
Not hair or anything. I know I'm thinking of the same guy. His swag is off the chain. Yeah, those jackets are amazing.
Definitely.
I know you're talking about.
In the face. And I knew them actually before this, that they blew up. I had them in my country years ago, and I remember my friends were telling me how this same individual had to go into psychiatric hospital to get care, just because of the stress of what it is that they now had gained in terms of influence and so much cloud and pressure.
Yeah.
But how it is that they were functioning wasn't necessarily in deep connection who it is that they are as an individual, because I saw their nature and temperament change so much over the years that it shocked me. And so publicly they're known as a very narcissistic, catty type of person, but privately it did damage to their soul, and it kind of comes out in their preaching and teaching style now more than ever. But my point is that there is a real price that you pay trying to function in the supernatural when it is disconnected from the reality of a healthy heart and a healthy soul, and you do it you do it at the expense of platform and influence and increased clout.
Yeah.
You lose the beauty of it, and it becomes hollow.
There's a lot of people can get there, and we see a lot of people get there. Not everybody can maintain it. That's the hard part. Getting there, what they say, your giftings and abilities and stuff can take you places that your character can't. And we see that happening. Like, and it's hard. It's hard. You know what I'm saying? But it comes from a place of being so powerful and so anointed and charismatic, or whatever you want to call it, or even just through Christ, right? Like the legit form. I'm not even talking about coming up through manipulation, but the legit form of it. You can walk in it, but you have to be so powerful in the spirit. Again, a prophet who can make it rain, a prophet who can open up portals, pull things in and out, whatever. But you got to be broken. It comes from being broken, and that's one thing that I love about Benny Hinn, especially right now. Yeah, and listening to him cry on the pulpit and sob and, want to have a happy ending, and you know what I'm saying, and just knowing he really wants to hear, "Well done, my good and faithful servant," and showing you what he's did wrong, and like, "Hey, look, I was teaching wrong, and I'm convicted, and I don't want grieve the Holy Spirit, and I don't want him to be mad at me. You know what I'm saying? And like, that's a place that we have to stay in, and whether he stayed there or whatever, but he's there now, and so that's something you got to honor and respect, man. From like,
I just wish he had done a whole lot earlier during the height of his career, but I guess better later than never. But
yeah.
I think here it is a real secret that I think a lot of people don't embrace. Simply having healthy relationships with people who love you outside of the context of what you can do. Having people who really and truly do celebrate you as an individual.
Yeah.
And valuing relationship with you. One of the things about me is that I'm blessed to have friends who have and are increasing in terms of their platforms and spheres of influence even more so than me. But when we get together, we are the most horrible bunch of dudes.
Hooligans.
Hilariously so. Like, even with church stuff, we clown and we laugh. Even some of the things that we do, like, what the hell was you doing in that pulpit? Dude, get it together. What happens is that we don't do something that Jesus, and even that Jesus made sure that he did have. We don't have people around us who can touch us, who care for us, and who can be our friend, who can be there for us. Not people who are enamored with your social platform and with how much influence that you possess. You know, you need people around you who you can fart around. You need people who can be around you when you smell sweaty and you don't look cute and you don't have the preacher voice.
Is that everybody though? Should you like tear down that wall with everybody? And there's some debate about that, you know, and people have different opinions. Like, go ahead.
I'm of the view that I think there are levels of intimacy and engagement based upon people's. That's why it is. First of all, you shouldn't wait till you get famous to try to build this type of stuff. You along life's journey, you should be building healthy relationships, and those dynamics change. I'm guessing your spouse or your wife, your girlfriend, she's probably a whole lot closer, more intimate with you than perhaps me or somebody else. And though there are levels of connection, and I think that, first of all, that there should be a place and a space just for you and the divine and the supernatural where no one else exists. But I also think that you should be willing and open to connecting and engaging people who see you above and beyond what it is that you do, and who will still be with you whether or not you have a platform.
Yeah, no, that's the big
whether or not you're successful, whether or not you consider you want to do this for the rest of your life. I have people who genuinely love me to such a degree that if I decide today, you know what, I'm not going to do this any longer. I don't want to do this. I'm done with this. They're still my friends.
Yeah.
They still care about me. I'm still with them because what should happen is that we should be building relationships that with people that we love and that we care about, above and beyond their performance.
Yeah.
And their career and their ministry platforms and all this other crazy stuff. You know, and when you meet those people, you keep them around. And it's okay if you don't agree on something theologically and you don't always function the same way, because you know what? One of the people that I love, like let's say Carlton Pearson, when he started teaching on the gospel of inclusion.
Oh yeah.
I still love the fact that when you go to this is a mega church. It's called West End Church of God in Christ, Bishop Charles Blake. This huge mega church. You still see Bishop Carlton Pearson sitting in the front row because him and the senior leader of that organization are tremendous friends. We are completely different places in terms of way of thinking about something, but that's not the crux of our relationship. We just love each other because all of this other stuff comes and goes.
Yeah. That's kind of new to me. You know what I'm saying? I say new. It's several years now, but for the most part, it was like, oh, you play the piano? Okay, yeah. We need a piano player. Oh, you sing? Oh my God, have you seen him play the guitar? Oh my God, he can move a crowd. You know what I'm saying? And they put you in the church realm. They put you somewhere, and then once you stop doing it, hey, the Lord just put on my heart, I'm not really going to be playing any music right now.
You just don't want to do it any longer.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it ain't got to be nothing about the Lord. I'm just you don't doing it, but you don't have anything to offer. You go get back in the crowd. Now you're just another face in the crowd because you don't have anything to offer them anymore. Whether you're a preacher, whether you're a Christian rapper like I was, and evangelist and stuff, and like I had so many people who would invite me out to their church, and I mean, it felt closer. Like I would be on the phone. What really blew me when I went through my stuff was the fact that like some of these people that would invite me out for ministry, and we'd be on the phone talking, and we would go to hang up. And I remember the first time this happened, I'd be talking to him on the phone. It's like, all right, brother. All right, man. Well, I love you, man. And, they said that. So for you, you have to return. Okay, man.
I love you too.
And I was like, all right, man, I love you too. To tell another man that, and then like to really mean it. Like, okay, I love that brother. That's one of us. You know what I'm saying? And he's put his neck out there for me, and we'll do anything, and we'll have family. And then once you kind of the whole ministry, and I'm not a minister anymore, or at least what they would call a minister, and then you don't get any more phone calls. I was like, I thought you said you love me, dude. Like that's how you treat the people you love.
What's up? But
how do you treat your enemies, man? Oh my God, you treat the people you love, but you find that like Christendom and church culture, like that's just across the board, and you don't find that out until you've kind of been in and then been pulled out, and you say, oh, we don't, yeah, you're done. And what really got me and opened my eyes was the fact that we were all like gung-ho about ministry and outreach. We want to convert people. We need new converts, and we go into the hood, we go into the ghettos, and we play music and we'd rap, and we try to convert people and bring them to church and all that stuff. So we were always looking for new people to convert and to bring in, but we didn't give a damn about the people who were bleeding, who were beside us. And like Christianity is like the one religion, man, that kills its wounded. Oh, you bleeding, bro? The wolves are coming, and they just kill him and get a new one. Oh, we got these new kids, man. They come. Like, hold on, what about the people we already got? We need to take care of and help them get through their shit, and come on.
Well, first of all, that's not real conversion. What you're talking about, that's like bad sales and marketing. It's manipulation, and it's manipulation a lot of times because.
You talking about the ghetto stuff, like going into the hood for outreach?
What we call outreach is here's why I find it manipulative, because when I look into the New Testament church in the book of Acts, you don't see what we call evangelism. Now, you do see evangelists may go into the territory and preach and whatnot, but the focus of the church was not evangelism. It was about community. And it is one thing to go into a space to preach to a bunch of people, and then it is that, you don't take the time to engage them, to develop them, and to learn to do life with them. It's another thing
because you don't care. You don't care.
You're just another number. Yeah, exactly.
You don't care. Really, you don't care. You're not finna.
They're not a real disciple.
Sometimes you do find some of those people who care, though. There's some of those people out there, right?
I a lot of times I think it's this whole hell, brimstone, and fire, because we figure as if the world's going to end tomorrow, so we need to get as much people in, and we don't necessarily have to go through the real process of developing and discipling and knowing and engaging and imparting and relating and doing life with these individuals. Because to me, being a follower of Jesus Christ, that's an entire different way of operation, of thinking, of philosophy with a whole different future, and it radically changes someone's life. And for you to, and I think it's unfair for us to show up in people's lives and say that you need to make this change tonight, and you need to do this tonight, and then it is that you're not willing to want to walk with these people, want to stay with these people, don't want to get into their stuff, and to engage with these folk. People say, well, I'm not an evangelist. Well,
because they're just being honest. They don't give a damn. They don't care.
Yeah, and
I'm not called to that. I was just, yes, you are. If you like, to an extent, Yeah,
because I think for sure. Like, for example, if again the spiritual gifts, that's definitely evangelists would do something like that. They have a grace for that. I will not deny it, and I'm not against it. But I think what has to happen is that a lot of times within the church, we have to teach people to really relate to other individuals, and then if it is that you find somebody and they make a decision sincerely that they want to follow Jesus and that they want to grow in this thing, then you should be willing to commit yourself to know them, to engage them, to relate to them, to be with them. And I have several individuals. I call my kids. I call them my babies. I call them the brats. they're grown adults. All have their different lives and all of that stuff. But for me, my purpose on being with them is for me to get to know them, to engage them, to be with them in their reality, and to do my best to help them, and to help them walk upright, to be strong, and to live amazing lives, because that's what it was all about. I was called to relationship. I wasn't called to be a superstar.
Yeah.
And until as that we change, what will start happening? So we continue to have communities filled with a bunch of people who function with an orphan mentality, who don't have anyone willing to be there in their space and in their face to engage them, to help them walk through the realities of life. And I think what sucks is that most of us, if we tell the truth, that has been one of the things that we lacked. Because what if in your journey, while it was that your mind was shifting in terms of spirituality, theology, other stuff, that you legitimately still had some great men and women of God who may be in church leaders or whatnot, who are saying, okay, I don't know where you're going with this, but we love you too much to let you go in it alone. And whatever you think, you still matter to us, and you still always have a space and place with us. And we're listening to you. We're talking with you. You make whatever decision you want to make, but I'm with you. I'm with you. I don't have to be on your podcast on this stuff, but I'm with you as a person. It makes for a different type of experience and different type of faith, because I think that's why we lose so many people, just because of the fact that, not that they disagree with us, but the fact that we forsook somebody just because they didn't choose the way that we may have chosen, and they don't see it how it is that we see it.
Yeah. It's about doing life with the person, right? And that takes time, that takes energy, that takes effort. And you talk about like having those people in your life that you can be open, you can be honest with, and be genuine and authentic with. I think that should be everybody. Like, we should be open. Like, there's this weird somebody posted a status, and there's like some church members wanted to come to this apostle's house or whatever, and he said, no, you can't let the people get too close to you, because then they'll see you as an ordinary. They'll get familiar.
Sure is ordinary.
And I know, right? But there's a weird truth to that. But it's like, I think we need to destroy that weird truth that's there, because it's not right. Like you just said, you is ordinary. Like, you know what I'm saying? Have you, I've felt that in the past or whatever, even if it's maybe in my head, but you kind of build yourself up. Not either you do it or the people do it by proxy, because you have a platform and you have followers or whatever, and or you're a spiritual person like Benny Hinn. Like to see Benny Hinn and Steve Brock smoking the hookah, you know what I'm saying? And Perry Stone, like, I seen that video, like that, like, oh my God, that wasn't real, that was CGI, you know? To see that these guys are regular people who tell jokes, who play pranks on one another, like that kills the magic for a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Because they have you built up on this, whether it's a spiritual pedestal. I guess
the demigod ideology that we have to make you more than human, because we cannot see you being as normal as us, because God doesn't use people like us. Clearly, he uses people like you, and it's a sad fact. And one of the things I always do is that if I mentor someone, if I take time to invest into people, I make sure they get to know me. It doesn't mean that I tell them any and everything about me. I think that's stupid. But I think it's important that not only we're touchable and reachable, but that we understand that our faith is incarnational. It's incarnational theology. It's the fact that God came and dwelt among us, and that if we're children of God, it has to be possible for people to come and dwell among us. So, I don't go around with what do we call you? Are you Prophet Apostle Elexio? Lex. That's who I am. The gift and the grace of my life works with or without a talent. Doesn't matter to me. Furthermore, getting to know me shouldn't the reason that it may cause you to lose respect is because you have a false sense of what I'm supposed to be doing and how I should be living, or the simple fact remains is that I show myself to be a person that doesn't live in a respectable fashion. Otherwise, because if you live in a respectable fashion, you should be okay with people getting to know you. And you should want those who work, especially those who labor with you, who work with you, they should be able to have the best testimony about you. And what's pathetic is that I've found a lot of times people who work closest with Christian leaders, their testimony of them is that they're horrible.
I know. I remember the first time I heard that. Now, this was probably, I want to say 2003, 2004 in that area. But it was when Juanita Bynum was the big thing. And I really enjoyed her stuff. And I had a buddy of mine who was a cameraman for TBN. And he had to film her, and she's all bossing people around. Get me a water. Do this, do that. Mm-hmm. And the cameras would cut on. Hello, everyone. The word of God is coming to you. And the cameras would come, and she's bossing people around and cussing people.
Disrespectful, yeah.
He was telling me that, and I had cognitive dissonance. Because I watched her with T.D. Jakes, I watched her teaching, I watched her cry and pray for people. Like, there's no way that can go together. So I had cognitive dissonance. I was like, no way, it's not the same person. You're talking about someone else, But really, she's a regular woman who, has a bad day.
Has a nasty attitude.
Nasty attitude. I couldn't believe it. But it was the first time it was like, okay. It makes you, but because we have them on this fake pedestal, because it's TV and they got makeup on, and and it's filmed and it's edited.
Yeah, we think we fall belief to the deception that automatically these are great people. I love Christian leaders who I've met, who especially the ones who may have a big name and not a notoriety, who genuinely are still kind people. Because I think, especially as pressure increases and opportunities and influence increases, it has the opportunity to really expose and magnify who it is that you really are at the core. And there have been times that I've met leaders who have, I guess I'll give you one example. I used to go to El Rey Jesus, Guillermo Maldonado, big thing in Spanish community. Now, Papa G, I would say he got a bit of a short fuse sometimes, but one of the things that I liked about him is that one of the reasons people loved him and loved that church, even if I didn't agree with a lot of things that he taught, he was just the coolest guy to walk up to. Like walking through the church and just, hey, Papa G, yo, what's up? And he's like, what's up? Where you been? I'm in the Bahamas. You need to come. You need to stay here. Mm-hmm. Don't go back home. You need to stay here. And just genuinely, just a great guy. And when you meet men and women who are just genuinely and sincerely like that, it's refreshing because it's nice to see people who have great influence and have a lot of clout, who are still touchable and tangible, and who are still, just good people, because that's what you should be like, especially if you're gonna have this level of influence. We shouldn't be elevating you if it is that you're nasty and narcissistic. Yeah,
and it's something that the lights kind of blind people from, because they don't get to see that. But I'm like, I feel like we need to always let them see it, man. I think there's something attractive. I think there's something. A beauty and a truth and even a power in just being authentic, right? Being up myself.
About that, I can inbox you and say hey, and you say hey back.
Well, not just that, because I get so many of those that if I don't say hey back, then I am, I'm a snob or whatever.
But I just in general, just somebody who still say, oh, thank you. Or,
I try to answer I try to answer all emails and messages and things like that. But what's the fact that if you don't, then you are a snob or you don't really.
That definitely is not a fair assessment. But it's still cool sometimes when it is that you see individuals who. Even if they have like speaking engagements, because you got to tell a lot about a preacher after they finish preaching, how it is that they act towards people. Before and after, I've seen like the divas who don't want to talk to anybody. But I remember one gentleman. I came to the Bahamas one time, and I think I sang on the music team for that night, and. He stays locked up into the back, and he only comes out at a certain point, comes out, does what he has to do. Don't touch him, and when he's done, he walks right out of the facility, out of that space, and goes straight back into his room because he wants to stay in that zone of the anointing. I'm like, bro, I'm gonna need you to break it down. It ain't that serious. It's
You're
okay.
No, I've seen some of that weird. You're not supposed to touch them. I mean, even Kevin Gates is really weird. I don't know if you know who Kevin Gates
I
is.
never heard of him.
He's so funny. Like people touching him, and he's wiping he'll wipe his arm. He's Muslim, kind of like Muslim Christian type deal, but it's silly. But there's a lot of that. I mean, I've seen little bitty churches like go on those weird ego power trips to where the pastor's reading in his study hall and there's two dudes with guns at the door, and I want to shake his hand because they had me to come out to speak. And after service, he's in his study. They say he's studying and reading the Word of God, and they wouldn't let me in. And they was like standing there by. And this is probably a church of 30 people. This isn't 30,000. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, okay, all right, I'll see you guys later.
I believe you, and they wonder why the ministries don't grow. And what happens is that because they even create a culture that over time that it's normal for people in positions of influence and power to be tangible and touched. That's why you don't see it throughout the entire community, because they don't increase it. And so they build spaces where it is that now they're secondary tier of leaders or prima donnas. Feel as if they're better than other people, aren't reachable. You can't engage them. You can't talk to them. It's sad. And it's pathetic, but what starts happening is that people eventually leave. And I think what I'm seeing occurring within the church today is that our love and our flair and our attention towards that type of stuff, especially amongst my generation, that is really decreasing because we're not interested in it. We're not interested in the games, and we're not given towards the pretense and all of this extra stuff, because you want to follow somebody, and you want to learn from someone who is tangible, who is reachable, who isn't perfect, but who models what it should be like to want to follow Jesus, or what it should be like to want to engage in the divine work. I think that's what we're looking for, and when we find that those are the people that we lean to, as opposed to individuals who are simply great for the soundbite and who are simply church sexy.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird though, like, because you don't see it. There's a disconnect with this, like putting people on these pedestals, and we've only seen one side of them. And then when we see some people, when they see the other side, they're shocked. Or there's this notion to tell you, don't meet the people that you look up to, don't meet your idols, because you're going to be let down, and you're probably going to start, like, there's a lot of truth to that. Like, I met people that I put up on pedestals, even when I started getting into the spiritual movement, right? I got into spiritual hip hop, and I'm listening to some of these artists, and they're breaking down astral travel, they're breaking down, and they're doing it in their music. They're telling you how to ascend to the seventh heavens, and how to communicate with the angelic beings and the Elohim, and taking ayahuasca and journeying through the clouds. And I mean, they're on this crazy, far out, beautiful stuff that I was reading, and I'm trying to embody. Like, I'm reading books about this, and then they're rapping about it, and I got the chance to meet them in their filthy language. They're cursing all the time, and they don't even do any of that stuff. Like, I would even ask them questions like, hey man, like, when you meditate, like, what is it that you see? Like, what is it? What are some of the experiences? Like, oh, I don't meditate. Like, bro, you got a whole album about how you meditate and ascend. And I'm like, so for me, like, and there was a bunch of other guys like that, and I was like, oh wow, a buzzkill, because I had in my mind, oh, that's just music. We study that stuff, but we don't really practice. And it was a bunch of them that I was like, oh my God, I wish I wouldn't have met you. Now I can't listen to your music the same. You know what I'm saying? Not the fact that you're not who you say you are. I guess there's there's a entertainment value to it, or fantasy value, or something like that. But again, like, there's a lot of people, and I feel like that too sometimes. Maybe people meet me and they're like, oh man, I thought you were going to pray with me. I thought we were going to meditate. No, we finna lay on the couch and watch Netflix. Like,
exactly.
We're not doing nothing. We're going to have a couple beers. We're hanging out. I'm a regular person. But it's the weird dichotomy that I think by being authentic and having this conversation and putting yourself out there is the fact that I'm both of those people. You know what I'm saying? I like to meditate. I like to.
This is one of the reasons.
But I like to play video games and all that kind of stuff as well.
And that's just a spiritual. This is one of the reasons why you will see, even like whether it's on social media or when individuals meet me, the expectation of me especially in person, them engaging me and singing in the pulpit usually shocks them by the time I take the microphone and they see this type of shift, because of the fact that I'm intentional about letting people like me, getting opportunity to meet me, what I'm like, how I think, how I function, and then if you can handle that, then it is that then you can deal with the rest of me. Then it is that I'll expose you to some of these deeper things that I hold on to, these convictions, revelation, all of that other great stuff. But excuse me, I want you to get to know me and find me refreshing, and if you like me and if you can engage me, then it is that I think you should be in my platform. Then it is I want to be on your platform, because 99% of what we do isn't in front of the masses. It's done in real life. So you should want people to know you, and then they can decide from then when to value you as a person. Then they say, okay, then it is that we want you to teach us. That's what I love with Jesus. When they met him, they just follow him and they spend time with him, and then it is that their eyes were exposed to the fact that he truly was the Son of God.
Yeah.
We avoid people getting too close to us and getting to know us, and we're not intentional a lot of times of laying out how it is that we think, what's on our minds. That's why even on my page, a lot of times my friends will tell me, say, you can't be doing this. You're preaching the gospel, international speaker, and you carry on like this. I'm like, look, this is what I am.
Yeah.
24/7. I want a glass of wine. I love Chinese food and Dunkin' Donuts. I'm gonna talk a bunch of foolishness. I'm a clown. I'm going crack up and everything like that, because to me those are parts of myself that I'm not willing to trade away to live up to this facade that people want to hold and believe about me. I'm not your fantasy. Let you meet the real me, and let you decide from then on how is it you're going to function. I recently getting to know someone that may possibly become a deeper relational dynamic, and they want to come by my apartment just to meet me in person. We were talking, and we were just chilling, and I said, my apartment is horrible right now. And they said, good, finally I get to see. Let me see exactly what you're like, and let's have real engagement with who it is that we are as individuals, because at some point we have to put aside the pretense. We have to allow people the opportunity to get to know the real us. And from that place, then it is that they should have respect for our spirituality and all the other great stuff that we do.
I'm with it, man. I'm with it. And those are the ones who they're really there. But they can get both. They can get both, man. They can get this work, and they can get, we can do spiritual stuff together. Like, it's just, people just be around you, and especially too, especially like being on the internet and stuff, and doing a podcast, and like you do so much spiritual stuff and studies. Like, I want friends to hang out with. So like when it comes to like meeting some people in the community, like I just want to hang out, man. I don't even want to, like people think they're going to meet you and you're going to talk about, all this deep spiritual stuff and aliens or whatever the case. You're going to talk about all kind of, I don't even want to talk about this stuff. Like,
and even when I talk about it, I talk about it in such a clown type of fashion, and such a sacrilegious way, and just whatever, because these aren't
but you still believe, you'll make fun of the stuff that even you believe in, right?
Yeah, I think it's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as I talk about some of these spiritual topics, I'd be the same one that bash them the most.
And you leave people dumbfounded. Hold on, how are you bashing an armor bearer when you got two armor bearers under you?
And you talk about all this craziness, I'd be talking about, how it is that they treat armor bearers like church slaves, all this stuff. And then I'll also talk about the fact that when I went to a recent speaking engagement, and they had these adjutants and a big old Jeep set aside for me, and I was too happy. And that when I came back to Nassau, I was looking, I said, where are my adjutants? I need somebody to pick me up and chauffeur me around. Because for me, I think there are a lot of great things that I've seen in spiritual movements, even within the Christian church. I just think sometimes we take stuff and we take it too far, and it becomes messed up and manipulative. And so I clown on the foolishness, but I won't throw away the baby with the bathwater. Yeah. I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, there was I have this character that I do, and
does your audience know who armor bearers are?
Armor bearers?
Yeah, you mean you could tell them what armor bearers are?
Half of them. We can like some of them if they grew up in church, not even grew up in church. Like it's
church, and charismatic.
Yeah, it's charismatic.
Church,
like
yeah.
So, like the armor bearer, from what I've seen, and I know you probably know a lot more, but because I've only seen a couple, but they a lot of times they are the trigger man. A lot of times they'll hold guns and kind of, they're like the pastor's bodyguard, if you will. They let's see, they it kind of goes back to carrying the armor for someone, like, you know, and going into battle or for King David or whatever. But in the churches I've seen, they have these specific roles that they do. You have to walk the pastor's wife to and from the platform. So and you sit next to the pastor. You're like his right hand man.
Right hand woman. Get them the water.
Get them the water. Make sure that they have water.
Carry the Bible.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a lot of other weird stuff, but that was mainly it. You're like his right hand man, like you're always seen with him. And
the personal intercessor, you pray for them, you cover the man and the woman of God, the man of God.
Whoa, man, yeah. I had this skit that I did because it was a character that I made called Brother Wayne. Okay, and he's like a Southern hellfire brimstone preacher. And I did a skit. I would just do these rants where I would get into character and record it. And one was about an armor bearer position that we're opening up in the church, and we're looking for candidates. And it's like, we can't pay you. We ain't got the money. We can't pay you, but we'll pick you up and bring you to church. I want to tell you one thing. If you're going to be an armor bearer, you're going to be the bearer of bad news. I'm going to need you to go tell the bass player to turn down. He turns up too loud. I need you to tell him to turn it down. I'm going to need you to get the pastor's water because he'll be parched. When the pastor's parched, it's your job to bring him the water. I need you to go after every sermon. I need you to go under the pews, and I need you to get the gum from under the pews. I need you to clean up all the gum. I need you to walk the children to children's church and back. I need you to do all this, and we can't pay you, but God will reward you. He'll pay you. He can pay you better than I can. I tell you that, word of God.
Yep.
It's a little bit different when you can see me, but people thought that was a real person. You know, I'll do that voice, and but the armor bearer thing is hilarious.
It is. It is. I grew up in church, and I've seen a lot of that. I used to armor bearer for some people. I did all that. I did all that stuff.
You felt it was an honor.
You felt it was an honor, you know. And I'll say this: there have been times I've assisted, like my friends who've had to preach and different things like that, and it's been really cool to work with them and what they were doing. And we just did it because it was hilarious. It was just funny to do, especially some of the circles that we're in. And we don't take those things seriously, but like we were secretly cracking up because we would know how to play the roles and how to act like how it is that the other folk would, because they thought it was such a spiritual thing to do. And it's just funny. And I know there's literally, and there are literal academies and training programs, institutions. Yes, there are. It's called.
I'm sure there are online courses. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, in person. Like you can become certified in terms of the agency and doing the work of an armor bearer and whatnot. And you know, a lot of times it's just good hospitality, but a lot of times, it's excessive, and they'll find any type of scripture to support these toxic ways of doing stuff.
Oh yeah, like everything rolls off of the pastor, and it's on you, and you got it. It's almost like maybe even like the whipping boy.
You're the hush guy. You're the hush guy. So you know who the senior leader is sleeping with, and if they're having down or affairs and stuff like that, it's your job to cover the man of God.
Oh, have you seen you know who Marjo Gortner is?
No, I've never heard the name.
Young preacher. There's some videos on YouTube. He was a baby preacher. He was like a child preacher, like 3-4 years old. He led his first wedding at 4 years old, and it was back in like the 70s or 60s and 70s, and he was a big name. And they traveled around, and they let him preach, and they would do tent revivals. And he was a little baby. They let him preach, and back in the day it was big. But you haven't seen that documentary? Okay, it's called.
Was he the guy? I think it was kind of black and white, or it was kind of old film where it is with him with his shirtless and with all the money around him in the bed and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah,
I've seen a portion of it.
Yeah, I've seen that online, and eventually bought the DVD, the whole DVD, and watched the whole thing. You can get it, but yeah, that was an interesting one, just to show you that again, the giftings and calling are without repentance. It was an honorable thing what he did to make that documentary, though, because that was like his last hoorah, and he's like, I want to show you what these pastors do, and I'm done with this. I just don't feel right about it. It's all I know to do. My parents trained me in this. I tried to go work a construction job. I can't do it. I'm not cut out for that. I'm an entertainer. This is what I do. So he left that and showed you behind the scenes. He's smoking cigarettes, smoking weed, tell you how he approaches women on the airplane to sleep with in every city that he goes to. And he gave you these like, well, you got to make sure it's not a member from the church, because they'll tell on you. You got to find somebody who ain't going to the event, you know. And he had all of this stuff laid out, man. It was very interesting. But, you know what I'm saying? He could still move a crowd, and people are still trembling under the anointing and crying.
I think
and
that's why I'm glad.
Ghost.
That's why I'm glad I have my bachelor's degrees in management, and that I'm doing more courses and further myself educationally. Because for me, preaching, I want to do this for the rest of my life, but I want to do it because I believe in it, and I believe what I'm sharing, not because I'm dependent upon an audience to keep my lights on. Because a lot of times that pressure is what pushes people into performing in a way that is disingenuous and that is disconnected from what they truly believe.
Yeah.
And that's when it becomes a lot of times manipulative, because I've seen sincere individuals who over time, because of the fact that they became leaders of local assemblies, or they gained fame and, you know, and all of that increase, they have to behave in a certain way. And it's sad, and they may not even really believe it, and they do damage to their own soul.
He didn't believe it. Yeah. But that was his job. He didn't know what to do. His parents raised him in that. Like, that's kind of what he went to school for, you know?
I've had friends who left high school and went, quote unquote, full-time into ministry. And I know one young man who now he is living abroad with his husband. But he was known as a prophet in the city where I lived, and, you know, he served full-time in his church, and those damn people nearly drove him crazy. But and he gave them so many years of his youth, and that now he's just trying to, I guess, kind of rebuild his life and find his way forward, finding his way forward, and to do things better just for himself. And he just didn't necessarily do that now, but the reason he's doing it now is because his sacrifice may have been sincere, but it was naive. And someone took advantage, and they take years of their life, which is one of the reasons why I speak out against a lot of manipulation, coercion, because people sincerely buy into this stuff, and in buying into it, they position themselves up to be taken advantage of, to be controlled, and to have their lives destroyed by someone else who took advantage of their sincere passion and ambition.
Yeah, we got a comment here from the Flying Penguins. He says their identity is often is what they do and how they perform instead of in Christ. You're known for something, and anytime you bring change, though, you know, people expect a certain thing, and you switch it up on them, you know. But I think that I think there's a safety there with being authentic. If he was to come out of the jump street, maybe start something else, maybe, you know, maybe start another religion or a spiritual practice. Even say, hey, this is what I do. I like to drop acid. I don't really believe. I like to put on shows or whatever. He you know, left all of that, didn't believe anymore, and became an actor. He wanted to, and he loved entertaining people. Like, he loved putting on a show, but it's like, hold on, this is I'm not authentic. I'm not who you guys think I am. But so again, like, I don't want nobody to think I'm something that I'm not, right? I want you to know, like, what you see is what you get, you know what I'm saying? And not be, you know, I say one way one day and one day another, but there's this, you know, it kind of comes with the territory, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, we're not going to do everything in a 24-hour window, or everything that we enjoy, or whatever the case is. But because, like, if you're in the light, man, they can't, like, the enemy has nothing against you. So hold on, you didn't know that? I talk freely about that. That's you. You didn't know about that. I'm open. You didn't know?
Exactly.
That's on you. That ain't on me hiding it. No, I'm just listen. What you want to, where you don't agree with. And the weird thing is, again, because that's people are drawn to that. How vulnerable you are, and the reason they are because in religion you can't be that. You have to wear the you have to play the hypocrite.
Because you're living up, you have to live up to these ideas that are inconsistent with who it is that you are. Because we built a platform and we created a space wherein there is not a respect for truth. There's really more so a commitment to one man's ideas rather than the diversity that should come about as a result of having different people who are on different journeys and with God and trying to find their way. And so what happens is what happens is that you have to set it up in such a way that people can feel okay with it. That's one of the things we loved about Jesus. You can say exactly what you thought. I mean, Peter felt as if he could walk up to Jesus and you're not going.
Well, he was like he wanted them to, because nobody else would. He's like, man, who do you say that I am? Like, what do people say about me? Like, be open, man. Don't hold it back because you're scared of what I'm gonna do. We love you, Lord. Yeah, these facades don't really work, and it makes for poor life, it makes for poor ministry, it makes for poor spiritual journeys and poor, horrible relationships. Do you still have that for people though? Because for me, even still though, like it kills the magic. It's a fake magic, right? It's not real. It's a facade. But again, the whole Benny Hinn or anybody you look up as being really spiritual.
No,
I mean, maybe there's levels of integrity. You know what I'm saying? I don't think you can compromise integrity, but just being a human is.
I have spent from my childhood. I was surrounded by like influential individuals within the Christian community from my childhood, and they would stay by my grandmother's house when they would come to the island. And when I became a teenager and lived in Nassau, I was still surrounded by a lot of influential people. And so that's how it's always been for me. So I really don't walk around with false expectations. And the people that you'll even see me praise and speak well about, it is because I have such a love for their humanity. I so appreciate who it is that they are as an individual and how it is that they seek to function in the reality of everyday life. That does something for me, and for me it authenticates the reality of their spirituality, what it is that they're preaching and teaching, because I know that it's connected to who it is that they are as a person and how it is that they function. And so because I see that connection, then it is I can trust them. And so I've seen major individuals, a preacher who I really, I still love it to some degree, but like Dr. Cindy Trim. There's a video I actually posted years ago that has more than 2 million followers. She literally prays in a building and about like 7,000 people just drop. Like literally, I can send it to you right now. Like they literally just drop. Now they added some graphics to it with some glittery stuff, but literally they literally just drop. And so, it's kind of hard to make certain things up. How it is that you can get that many people to just do stuff like that. It is possible, but I've been at gatherings with people like her who, when you walk past them, there is, without you even intending for it, there is this ethereal presence, this tangible aura that they carry that's almost electric. And it's nothing that is planned or is facade. But what I celebrate more about anything else about them is when I can hear people who work with them, who speak well of them as an individual, who say that this person is hilarious, that they're really kind, and that they have fun. I remember one of the things I enjoyed was when a friend of mine told me that she says Dr. Trim likes cocktails. So when she goes to hotels, one of the first things that she will do is that she'll go to the bar and she'll get herself a cocktail. This is a lady preaching for thousands of people on a consistent basis. She's having
Kill the witness.
I'm just chilling. Like I appreciate that. I have a mentor who, and it's recorded, who predicted this whole September 11th situation. Who spoke about a lot of things that occurred before they actually happened, and I think they still even have that stuff on record with her. But she is the funniest person in the world. Like legitimately, when we talk, we're not talking about the things that she's spoken of or told. we're talking about the realities of everyday life that she's dealing with, especially as a middle-aged woman. And if you want to get into her mind with some of these things, she's more than open, but it's integrated into the reality of who she is. And I think those are the type of people we need to embrace. People who are normal, and still you can see that what it is that they preach and teach and what it is that they speak about, it's integrated into how it is that they live their lives, because that makes them trustworthy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good, man. I'm with it. Integrity, relationships, doing life together, really.
Absolutely.
You can find out. I think Flying Penguin kind of agrees with you. He said that's a great test to see the way they treat their servers, the people who work for them. What do they say about them? You know, ask the employees. You know. And
people who work with me will always tell you that I'm petty, not in a bad way, but that I'm sarcastic and that I'm a clown. And that I care for people, that I will follow up with them, how you're doing, and whatnot. Sincerely, just who it is that you are, because you don't believe the hype about you, because God doesn't. And the worst thing you can do is fall in love with people's perceptions of you, as opposed to embracing the truth of who it is that you are.
Right here at the end, man. Let's. I want to ask you about any of your angelic or supernatural encounters as well.
No problem.
And then you talked about the spirit realm, and you mentioned the other beings, right? That's what I talk about in this book. A lot of the others, I get to talk about tulpas and shadow people and elemental
First of all,
spirits.
I love how thick the book is. I like thick books.
Oh yeah.
So I love thick books.
It's got pictures too, though.
Oh, well, I'm down with it too.
I mean, I kind of cover. It's an overview book. Fasting to rid oneself of spirits, and it talks about the spiritual implications, but it gets into like the physical implications or whatever of fasting and gorging on meats and foods and stuff. I mean, they cover a lot, but a lot of different things, and I show you biblical examples for a lot of this stuff, like that we never heard about: ghosts and spirits and mist and elementals, like all of that kind of stuff, like mentioned of in the Bible. Communing with the dead mentioned of in the Bible, like in a good way, like that Jesus did it and stuff, like crazy out of this stuff that's not normal. Maybe it's becoming more normal as we talk about it. I feel like it's divine revelation, but the more I hang out on the internet, I see other people vocalizing stuff that I kind of stepped out in, divination, stuff like that in the Bible. Other people are being vocal about it, kind of together, which is really, really cool. So for you, man, and let's just say, there's a lot of dreams and visions and moving and chills and a lot of that stuff that you can't see.
Yeah, I've had my full of stuff of dreams and visions. And
I know we might have even mentioned this when we was with Calvin that night before we went live, but we're talking about like people who had that real power, like, and I'll say this, the real power, the supernatural, and all that stuff's good, right? But when something crosses over, that's what I want to know about, man. Have you ever had an entity where you could see him and other people could see him, not just you? Because I got friends like, oh man, I see angels in here, bro. I have those guys, but it's like, hold on, I want to see him too. Tell him to make an apparition. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's angels over you. There's glory on you. I see it. Like, hold on, why can't we all see it? We hear about these signs and wonders of angel feathers or rubies falling out of the sky, but has any of that stuff ever crossed over? Like an angel stepped into this reality, a demon manifested and run down the hallway, like any of that kind of stuff, man? Like everyone saw it or something?
Now, what I have seen, pretty much actually, I think when I was a kid, when I was younger, probably before I really got into my teen years, those were the times when personally I would have a lot of I would have like dreams and supernatural encounters that I could not explain. And hearing voices. I remember, especially by the time I reached my teen years, because one of the challenges of being in the Caribbean culture is that there is this underlying supernatural type of energy and experiences that my people tend to get into. Not all good, not all bad. But I remembered that what would happen with me is that I was what was considered student Christian movement president at my high school, and we were infatuated with revival. We wanted this great move of God, things to occur, and what we didn't realize is that apparently that being real supernatural individuals who had who was aware of some of the things that we were doing, the way we were praying and we were pushing. And when you start to create a type of climate in a particular space, what can occur is that individuals who have other powers or are against that type of stuff, they can become aware of it, and it draws attention. And I remember what began to happen is that me and the young lady who was my vice president, we would literally not be able to sleep some days because we were terrorized in our dreams. And I would see all of these dark forces running across my room, and my bed would shake. It was a really exhaustive time. I remember it, and I remember that one of the experiences is that we were we were outside having a service, and I saw a lady who came to where we were, but we were separated by a fence. Campus from where she was, and I tell you no lie, she looks up and she points to one of the individuals who was on my team, the music team, points to her, and this young lady automatically drops to the floor and starts convulsing in like in a full like seizure, not a seizure, but in full demonic manifestation. Like she is literally like a snake on the ground, and acting and behaving in that fashion. And I remembered, but thankfully my principal was actually a real Christian woman. At the point in time, she comes down, she lays her hands on her, and she commands that power to leave. And within a few minutes, that young lady calms right down. What began to occur with me, though, is that more so than, say, engaging some, a lot of angelic beings and stuff like that. A lot of times it was probably more so in dreams for me than anything else. What started to happen is I just had this capacity, an increased capacity to know how to speak to people, to recognize things about them that I couldn't explain, that I just knew. That I could say this about them, and to this day, I still just get people. Get them this intelligence about what it is that an individual has the possibility and capacity to accomplish, what it was that they were gifted at. And I would tell people things that only them and God knew, that they had just said to him that morning, or private conversations that they had with their friends. I tend to do things along those lines. And so really, my experience wasn't more of what you call a seer type of reality. More so it was an intuitive, empathic type of experience. To this day, that I would go into a church building and I will know. I tend not to know what I'm going to say. When I step into the environment, is almost if I'm able to start putting two and two together. This is what they need to hear. This is what's going on here. These are the experiences, and this is what is needful for them to move forward. So that's how it tends to work with me, and as opposed to probably a lot of dreams and encounters, because I wasn't in that type of environment very much. I stayed away from them, to be quite honest, because those people tend to be so crazy. You have it takes a lot of discipline, and you have to know how to disciple individuals who are like that. And when you have a lot of them in one space, it can become extra unnecessary and imbalanced in an unhealthy fashion. Yeah. And so I tend to have stayed in environments. I tend to thrive in spaces that, interestingly enough, not like me, where I'm the enigma. And by being in those spaces, I'm able to introduce different ideas and different practices, and be able to utilize that part of my spirituality more so than anything else.
What? Let me ask you this. I got two things I want to ask you, but let me ask you this first. So, did you ever feel it in your body, like whether it was for healing or what the Lord was wanting you to do?
Oh yeah. This is where what will happen for me is that I will move, and I think at some point I probably need to I need to speak to somebody to probably have a better understanding. I think it's kinesthetic for me. Like I will move in a certain way, and when I'm walking and moving, then it is automatically I know information. I understand certain things. I comprehend what's happening in an individual's life, or I will hear their voice and I'll be able to tell them what giftings that they have. I will get near them or not even in a conversation, just get around them and recognize certain things. I would just be able to say, this about you. Because it felt as if that their presence that extends beyond the context of who it is that they were physically, that reality, once I enter into it, I'm able to comprehend. I'm able to have discernment. I'm able to speak to what's happening with them or what's going on in their life and who it is that they are. And so that's one of the things. Usually healings, I've grown a leg out one time. Healings tend to have not been my area of specialty. I tell people if I'm sick, I'm screwed. I gotta go get medication or call my other friends who move in that type of stuff. But what I found was that I have this, like you said, I'm very eloquent, this revelatory capacity and this ability to unfold people. I just pull them. And just recently, I remember I went on a speaking engagement trip, and one of the individuals over there, her assistant, I stopped her and I said, "Hey, is such a person available?" She said, "Sure." I said, "I would like to speak to her for 1 second." The young lady comes out, and I'm telling her about their conversation that they just had. This happens to be so much. The conversation they just had, and she is in tears. Just because I'm validating and affirming to her the fact that she's not crazy about what she's thinking about doing. And so that's the norm. That's the norm for me. Just this capacity for wisdom and for information. Wisdom especially has really been a major thing for me.
Yeah, that's good. There was a lot of times when I was traveling to churches to minister and stuff, there would be things that would happen in my body, like my heart would start hurting. I feel like I'm having a heart attack or real pain in my back. Like I get in a car, we head to a service, and I can't move my back, and I'm like, "Oh Lord!" And it's like the Lord would like let me feel it before I got there, and I'd say, "Okay, Lord, I will be obedient and ask who needs this healing in their back," right? And then the pain would go away. And then when I got there, I said, "I don't want to move any further." You know, when we took over the service and people would come forth, and there were some times where I would be and we'd be in worship in a congregation, and I would go deaf in one ear. And first thing would happen, I start rebuking the enemy. "Devil, you let my ear go. Jesus' name, I'm healed of the Lord. I'm blessed." And it wouldn't work. I couldn't hear anything. And so I said, "Okay, I know what this is," you know. And I go to the pastor and say, "Hey, I feel like I got a word of knowledge for somebody who needs healing in their left ear. Can I have permission?" He said, "Yeah, after this song, go up there." And I'll go up there and call it out, and somebody come forth who can't hear, and pray for them, and a divine miracle happens. They're able to hear out of their ear, just being obedient. Then I can hear out of mine, right? Those weird pains that being in services, and all of a sudden your neck, I can't move my neck. What I got going on, you know? And then first you start like rebuking it. You think it's the devil trying to get you. Like for some reason, that's the first thing I've always went to, and I know a lot of people do. I was like, hold on, let me just speak this out. Does anybody have a neck pain, neck injury that you need healing for? And hey, I went to the doctor today because of my neck, and they said I got some stuff going on, and I got in a wreck, and I said, the Lord wants to heal you. Can we pray for you? Sure. And then the Holy Spirit shows up and touches that person, and even just creates an encounter for other things to move prophetically with the person. So now you feel it in your body. It's kind of, all that stuff's scary. I know you like talking to people, and you can probably, do you think that it's some of it, would you call like, you could say mind reading, but like, you know what they're thinking? Like you're talking to them, but you're getting like other stuff while you're talking to them. You can feel them judging you, maybe like a lot of stuff like that. Like you're talking, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, oh, you watched it?" You're like, there's other stuff being like going on back and forth.
Behind the scenes, just what they really think about you and whatnot. Yeah, that happens sometimes. Usually, I'm not as attuned to it because, I'll put it this way, I'll be honest. If I find that someone has a less than honorable viewpoint of me and they're not willing to tell me, I'm going to ensure that in your dealing with me, I'm going to be as much myself as possible so that I piss you off. Because if you're around me, I have a low tolerance for facades. So since you don't want to tell me what you really think, okay, you're going to meet me, Elexio, you're going to meet that Leo side of me, that July. 25th, which is my birthday, that Leo part of me likes to come out and come to the forefront. Like, come on. So this is what you really think, and I know what you really think. I don't know. We ain't gonna pretend to be nice when you don't have anything to do with me. We at some point we're gonna push on these buttons so we can come. Let's just lay it out for what it really is. So I like to do that, and when it is that I'm around people and I can see that they are so suspicious or they're very cynical. What I will say that I won't share a lot of my treasures. I won't share a lot of things that I believe because I don't cast spells for smart people who are disrespectful regarding it. And, it's one thing if you don't understand and you want to hear my thoughts and you sincerely, even if you disagree, you can be sincere about hearing someone else's journey. It's another thing if it is that you're a pessimist and you're really just wanting to nitpick and tear apart what I hold on to. Then it is, if I see that, then screw you. And
I got no time for people like that.
Nah.
Not with the internet, man. You know what I'm saying? Like your vibe attracts your tribe. There's no reason to be bullied and try to prove your, like, you know what I'm saying, validate yourself around unsuspecting people. Hey, you don't like me? Join the line. There's a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? You don't believe me? I don't expect you to believe me. You had to have been there. I'm sorry. I wouldn't believe me either, and that's good. You know what I'm saying? Just that you didn't just take my word for it or whatever the case is. But, integrity and all that stuff, I think it validates a lot of stuff too. Is there any spiritual practices? Because I know you say you venture out a little bit. You're a little bit more open. Is there any spiritual practices that you...
I'm a lot open.
that you do that, like, we may be surprised about, whether it's like any interactions with angels or calling on other entities by name or burning sage or, plant medicine? Is there anything that's like out of the box that you do that's just kind of like near and dear to your heart to kind of tap into the spirit realm or anything like that?
Believe it or not, I don't know if this is necessarily a spiritual practice, but what I do a lot is that I study and I listen to streams of thinking and perspectives that are probably that really do contradict, especially contemporary Christian thought. And I love to spend as much time looking into, say, different religions and different ways, different ways of experiencing life. I enjoy it, and I love
any people by name like that's really
one of my friends. He is a LGBTQ advocate, and he introduced me to a woman. She's really a social voice more so than anything else. Her name is Bell Hooks.
Okay.
And I'm listening to, as well as I signed up for them. I've been doing this online course on transgenders. Because usually if I have a burden about something, about a particular group of people, I need to go look into it and see what's going on with me in there. And what I will do as much as possible, because I'm a very relational individual, I find that talking to people who are across the spectrum outside of my particular spirit, that for me is a practice I engage in as much as possible, and because it helps me to experience and to hear their reality of what it's like for them. And that opens me up more than anything else, because I'm not much for meditation, because just sitting down here talking to you for like 2 hours, all my legs are moving because I'm a little ADD, and so I'm always usually on the move. And so
that's why it's so powerful, man. You go against your nature.
I know, right? And so I thrive on sitting and talking to someone like you or Calvin Richard or one of my other friends, or having friends and who I've even spoken for who are into metaphysics and different ways of functioning. That for me.
So for me, I'm into all that stuff too. Like, I studied a lot of different philosophies, and for me, it validates, I don't know if you want to say the Bible. We could say the Bible. It validates my faith. It's expounding. Like, I have these others in metaphysics, and maybe scientists or people who are, take more of a scientific approach, or someone who's into Qigong or someone who's into Reiki or whatever the case is. Like, they're like expounding from another position things that we already believe and we already practice, and they're approaching it from a different perspective, but they give us some light that we're not able to see, because whether it's about the Bible or certain passages and ways to break it down, because we've been told it's this way, but we listen to a mystic or someone who's into another philosophy. Does it reinforce your faith a little bit more, make it a little bit more magical? It
humbles me. It humbles me because it helps me to recognize that number one, God has the capacity to reach people straight across the spectrum that don't necessarily fall into your typical evangelical way of operation. And it makes me realize that I don't have the monopoly on God. I don't have the monopoly on spirituality.
You ain't got it all figured out yet.
Yeah, no.
You don't have the monopoly on speaking in tongues or discerning of spirits and how that works. It's awesome to hear other people talk about it from a whole nother perspective. Be like, hold on, you talking about discernment of spirits? They don't use that word, But they have a premonition, you know what I'm saying? a quickening, what we would call it,
Yeah, I love it.
Beautiful.
I absolutely love it. And and those are the things that I value, because it teaches me to once again not just consider study, but also to recognize that I should be humble even with what I present. That I don't get the place and the space to attack someone else who see things differently from me, or to think as if I'm the only voice there. That I'm the only one that's perceiving what's on the mind or the heart of God, and that God doesn't have access throughout the length and breadth of the universe, reaching the people and to speak to them and to empower them.
Yeah, being more inclusive, and I think it opens you up. Like, everybody has to kind of cross that threshold, especially if you're a part of religion, because you're told that God only speaks this way, or God only speaks through Christians. Was that person born again who gave you that information? Like,
they
God
speak in tongues. So what denomination are they part of?
Yeah, were they fasting?
Is it a woman?
Yeah. So, like, once you cross that threshold consciously, you're open for God to speak to you through anything. You know what I'm saying? And there's levels to it. And because God can speak to you through a homeless man. You're like, oh, this is some crazy ass homeless man. Like, he doesn't even know. He doesn't even have his life together. You judge it through that. What's the word we used a while ago? The cognitive dissonance kicks in. God could never speak through a Muslim. God can never speak through the Bhagavad Gita, bro. Bro, the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, bro. God is not in the Quran, bro. You have these weird things, and you're like, hold on, God will speak to you through the Quran just because you said that He can't. You don't speak through the Quran, God. Well, let me show you. Pick it up. You know what I'm saying? Like, anything, like, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, man. If we hear His voice, He speaks through many different. My sheep know my voice, and the strangers they will not follow. But His voice speaks through so many different dialects. It sounds the same. It's familiar. We heard His voice before we were formed in our mother's womb. It's a familiar sound, but it speaks through so many different facets, man. And there's a I guess you would call it a proverb, a Hindu proverb. It says, if you can't see God in all, then you can't see God at all.
That's
so,
good.
okay, God, where are you in this? What do you have for me in this? And, man, being so in tune and so close with the Father's voice that there's man, you're privy to so much more. And it unfolds because you thought you had it figured out. And, like, oh, my God, back to the drawing board. But it makes it more fun, dude, because you're looking for Him to speak everywhere. Yeah. And He's longing to speak. He's longing for you to listen. He'll speak through the movies. He'll speak through your friends. He'll speak through whatever. Like, but it's usually the ones you think that He's not, which is the cool thing.
And sometimes it'll be like, God, shut up. I'm not in the mood today. I need a break. Absolutely. That's absolutely true.
Sure, man. It's good stuff. Well, bro, appreciate this interview, man. This hangout session, bro. We got to do it more.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you for making me the first one for 2020.
For sure. For sure.
That.
Yeah. We got it in, man. First one of 2020, starting off right. What do you have to plug, man? Your Facebook? Do you have any a website, anything where people can check out more about you? I mean, your Facebook is popping. Like you stay on a roll. I love it. It keeps me laughing. And like you said, the memes were the best, though. The cat meme. Did you make a lot of those memes, or would you?
Yeah, I did. I
think a lot of those memes went viral, bro. I think other people were taking them and re-uploading them, because I'm finding all these other people like with the same meme. I'm like, hold on, I think I almost tagged you. I was like, I think Elexio made this. You know?
Yeah, people steal your stuff, and so probably in 2020 I'm gonna start tagging putting my name and stuff on it. But yeah, sure. I'll be traveling to the USA some more this year. I'll be in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. This is why just follow me. Check out my page, follow me, and if you inbox me, I will respond as soon as possible.
I'm in Alabama, bro. Not too far.
Oh, Fort Lauderdale?
It's a little ways, but not too far.
Listen. You have to understand. I live in Nassau. My aisle is 21/7.
Oh wow.
So, yeah, it's small. So when I go to the USA and when it's just going to take 2 hours to get. I'm like, excuse me, 2 hours to get where?
Yeah.
And I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina this year. I'm Cincinnati, Ohio. Should be there this year. I'm going to be in Eastern Maryland. So if you just stay on my page, I'll definitely be sharing different places I'll be at. I'm probably going to clown some more this year on social media and. Just do some more things to get some more stuff out there, and
laughter's a medicine, man.
It is, and I like introducing people to this side of me because it makes it easy even when they see me in person, because I don't have to deal with that false sense, that false perspective.
Man of God.
Yeah, because I don't live up to it.
Yeah,
I don't live.
He's not who he says he is.
That away. Yeah.
For sure.
I'm just a happy guy.
Okay, so plug the Facebook or whatever again.
Okay, probably in this facebook.com/ what is it? Elexio Baillou. If you look up Elexio Baillou,
Elexio B.
Yeah, Elexio B. Yeah, that's my Facebook page. My personal page. I'm probably gonna do after a photo shoot this year. I'm gonna do work on my public page, but pretty much I'm just nice, normal dude. Just reach out to me. Hey, my book is on Amazon.com. My first book, The ABCs of Prophecy, and it's called A Fundamental Guide to Revelatory Ministry. It's a comprehensive, probably first look that I ever got into, that I did to explain a number of different things I saw regarding the prophetic, because I was just frustrated that I couldn't find a resource that just gave a comprehensive look into the supernatural and to dreams and visions and all that stuff. So if you want it from a pretty much a kind of charismatic viewpoint, I definitely need to upgrade it and do some work with it. But it's a first snapshot into my life and to how it is that I think and how it and what my experience and journey was like that led me to this place, a space that I'm in.
Awesome. Good stuff, man. Excited to see what you got coming, and it's a blessing to know you, brother. And there's a bunch of people in chat already. They follow you on Facebook, maybe because I shared some of your stuff. I don't know, but they follow your memes and stuff, and they're sitting there saying how good it is and stuff. So good stuff, man, to be acquainted with you.
It's good to know that I'm helping people, that I'm adding joy to their life, as well as challenging them to think a different way.
Man, that's what it's about, bro. Just making people think. And if that's it, like, just, and it that unlocks something in people, man. Let them, even if they, they take it away. Whether a lot of times it may feel like a jab at first, like, hey, what do you mean? Because you have this agreed upon belief that you think is doctrine or church truth or whatever the case is, and when you hear anything against that contrary, the first notion is to kick it out. But it's something that just kind of resonates and makes you think a little bit, dude. And any way that you can do that through music, like I do, or podcasts, memes are huge, man. There's so much theology that's being taught and learned, and so much being communicated through memes these days. It's really interesting. It's kind of like hieroglyphs or something at this point. A whole idea in a picture with two, Baby Yoda's taken over, though. I don't know if you've done any Baby Yoda memes.
I haven't done the one as yet, but I've been watching them. What I did was, you remember it? You remember
Yeah.
movie?
My daughter watched it last night. She got it. Yeah.
I did a whole series with that, and I just went. I went in, and I promise you, I will say things that you like. I legit have real pastors of churches inbox me like, "Why would you just leave us alone?
Oh, yeah.
Like, just leave us alone." In 2020, leave us alone in lecture. I'm like, I'm trying, but y'all keep messing up.
Yeah. Y'all giving me too much content. I can't.
Exactly. And ain't nobody calling y'all on the carpet for your foolishness. So it's my job, by the grace of God.
It's funny, man. Well, it's good to call you brother, man, and be in this spiritual walk with you, man. And we'll do it again, brother. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Maybe between this year and next year, we could meet up, because it would be really cool. You say in Alabama.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I never been to Alabama. I need to find a reason. Me, you, and Calvin need to meet up this.
Oh, me and Calvin talked about something because he's not too far either. So that'd be awesome if we can, for real.
Exactly, but let me know, because I have 2 more vacation days that I haven't done anything with, which I haven't set aside yet for 2020. That this will be a good something nice and controversial to give them something else to call me a false prophet about.
For sure. We just did a without giving too much information, we just did a conference, was the Christ Consciousness Conference, and I didn't do it at a church, so we rented I rented a universal church, like a Universalist church or whatever, and somebody was sharing my stuff, and I think it was my buddy who's in chat here, and it was like, hey, that guy's supposed to be speaking at a Universalist church. You might got to watch out. I was like, they're not finna let us come into regular churches talking about
exactly.
Which I'll tell you what. Let me say this: a lot of churches are opening up. I told Calvin this though. I run with a group of people, man, who are really pushing the envelope. I mean, the charismatic movement, but it's a little bit more inclusive these days. Depending on where you go, you got to go places that structure's been torn down though, like, because you can discern that, and that's the most disgusting thing. You can discern where that hierarchy's there, and you got to fight this boss, then you got to get through this boss, then you got to email this boss to talk to the pastor, like the weird church structure, like seeing that. But as far as like a more of a grassroots spiritual movement in the Christian community, like I've been embraced lately, and it's really weird, because I've been on the fringes and on the outskirts of it for so many years, and I thought I was alone. But again, there's so many other people who are having beautiful spiritual encounters. They're more inclusive. They're open to ask questions. Even if they don't agree with everything that I do, I'm open about it. Hey, this is what I do. This is what it means to me. Even though you don't believe it or don't endorse it, they're still like, hey, you're a brother, man. I see God using you. I see God in your life. I vouch for you. Like, versus back in the day, oh, really? You do that? See ya. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're just expecting everyone to still be doing that, but there are like a lot of grassroots, like Christians, people who love Jesus, who are open to the far out, super spiritual stuff. Some of them are way out there, but a lot of them are even walking in balance with it, and it's real beautiful. So be encouraged with that, man.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this journey and to see what it is that God gets done, and let's rock it out.
So what's up, man? 2020, new vision. Let's make it happen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, brother. I'll be in touch with you.
Okay, yes. Give me the link, because some of my friends already want to sing it. Say it. One is asking me, did I sing? I didn't sing it in your part.
Well, sing it. Bless us with a tune. What you got? If he's asking you.
So I sing. Okay. What song? I'll try to think. Nothing gospel.
He said nothing gospel.
I'm not not at like 10:45 p.m. Okay, let me see. What's it? If I gave you forever, would you take care of me? Yes, I will. Would you take me for granted? Run away. Those wonderful things that you do, it's got me feeling in love with you, in love with you. And loving you is easy, comes so naturally. That's it. My voice is pretty much there for the night. So.
Well, you're using your inside voice too, so because I've seen you belt it out, man. There's some videos of him just singing wide open, so it was good though. Good stuff. Check out his music. There's a bunch of videos and stuff that he has on his page, preaching the house down, and pretty much having conversations like this from the pulpit, which is cool. You just tell it like it is.
Pretty much.
What you see is what you get.
Yeah, it is.
Good stuff.
Okay, then.
All right, brother. Many blessings, man. Have a good one.
Thanks so much.
All right, shalom. Peace, peace.
Bye-bye.
Elexio Baillou, Baillou. Go to Elexio B on Facebook. Check him out. Literally, his memes are magic. He's got some funny memes. They're going to make you think. They're going to challenge you. Laughing at church culture, laughing at some of the things that we take ourselves too seriously over. Like, you got to be able to laugh at some of the stuff. If you don't, it'll drive you mad. So laughter is a medicine that helps you from stop going mad. That's the medicine's laughter. Works together for our good. You have to. You freak out if you don't. So, man, hey, thank you guys for hanging out with me in the live stream, in the live chat on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're listening to this at, Periscope, listening to this on the podcasting app. Shout out to all you beautiful people as well. With that, I'm going to say peace and shalom. I hope that your 2020 is blessed. I hope that there is new vision for you. That you just embrace the energy and the opportunity to step into whatever it is that you have been wanting to do, to step out. It's a perfect time to fire on those goals, fire on those dreams, fire on those visions. Start that business, start that podcast, start that healing ministry, start that coaching career, whatever it is. Step out, write that course. You have so much to offer. Every single one of you have something that can help somebody else. You've been through something that's a little bit that you got some insight on, and it can help people who are in it right now or who are going to be going through it very soon. And you can share that with people, and whatever it is, fire on it, man. 2020 is the year to do it. I encourage all of you to do it. I'm doing it, stepping out, releasing some other things. I'm working on some courses and some private mentoring sessions and things like that I'm doing for 2020. We just started booking these. Shout out to a couple people who's already booked seats listening in the live stream. But we have 2 events coming up. Already booked. We got an event in January. It's booked out. Then there's another one in April. I'm booking these spiritual events where we're going into the woods and getting a cabin with a bunch of men, and I'm going to be doing some chanting, some spending time in nature, meditation, breath work, all that cool stuff, and getting together with some fellas, setting that intention for what we want to manifest in 2020 and encounter personal revival within our own lives, laying some things down, picking some things up, and moving forward with it. And I'm really excited about all of this new stuff that we're stepping into. Just released a new song last night. It's a bit different stylistically, and but I'm getting a bunch of good feedback about it for the most part. So if you want to hear it, check it out. It's a little bit more, I wouldn't say crunk, it's a little bit more aggressive, and more maybe mainstream sounding even. So if you want to check that out, it's on my YouTube or on my Patreon. You can have access to download it as well. If you'd like to support, patreon.com/TruthSeekah 2020. Get in where you fit in. Love you guys. We're going to do it again tomorrow morning. Peace, peace.
Have a book, product, or service you'd like to promote? Look no further. Ad slots and commercials are now available for you to get the word out about what you do on the TruthSeekah Podcast.
We give you what you need.
Engage the spiritual community and get yourself instantly in front of thousands of listeners who explore the spiritual, paranormal, supernatural, religious, and metaphysical realms. Have your commercial inserted into our entire archive of episodes. That includes the one with Jordan Maxwell, James Gilliland, Dr. Michael Heiser, and that weird one with Busy Bone from Bone Thugs and Harmony. Stop sleeping on yourself. Know your worth. Let's get the word out today about what you have to offer. Head on over to TruthSeekah.com and click on Advertise for more info.
Your way so much higher than mine, so much higher than mine, so much deeper than mine, so much deeper than mine.
Well, that does it for this episode, folks. To hear more episodes of the TruthSeekah podcast, head over to TruthSeekah.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/TruthSeekah.